On this episode of the Squat Plug, episode 33, we are joined by Gabe Inman, who is a strength coach out of Virginia. He coaches actual sports as opposed to just a meme sport of powerlifting. We talk a whole lot about periodization, talk about coaching in strength sports, we talk about Article 14, we talk about a couple of the famous names in powerlifting and whatnot, and just overall a very good episode. Welcome aboard, enjoy, like, comment, share, and subscribe. All right, welcome to the Squat Plug, episode 33. Today's episode, we are joined by Gabe Inman, a.k.a. Swole House Cookie of Instagram fame. He is a strength coach, and where are you operating out of, Gabe? Can you tell us something about yourself?
So I'm operating out of Williamsburg, Virginia. Even though my primary addiction is powerlifting, I actually work with mostly actual real sport athletes. So
Wow.
so it's a lot more enjoyable than trying to tell an adult get your protein in and do some stretching. So
cut the feed.
Got 10 unfollows after that comment of yours.
Oh man.
Hey, I don't blame you. We just had a chicken parm right now, right before we started the podcast. So. I understand.
So, all right. So, strength sports. What kind of strength sports do you coach? What strength sports do you engage in? That kind of stuff. Like, what's your take on the whole scene?
So, I specifically only do powerlifting. My brother was trying to get me into strongman at one point. He had been working with Andy Deck, I think he's retired now, but he's a pro strongman. And I was like, yeah, I'm 5'7". That's just not going to turn out. And, bodybuilding was too much not eating. And then Olympic lifting, that's too hard for my brain. So I was like, powerlifting's pretty simple. Stick with that. So that's just kind of how I got into strength sports. As far as what I coach now.
What about the real sports, Gabe?
Oh, yeah, the real sports. There we go. So as far as what I really coach right now in terms of real sports, swimming, tennis, we work with a rowing club. We've got a couple soccer players who come in, some softball players. Those are a little more individual, whereas swim, tennis, and the boat club are all collective organizations who basically buy our time and work as an entire organization.
And you're not doing you're not coaching the actual sports, right? You're just doing strength conditioning with these athletes?
Yes. Yeah, so strength conditioning, sports and performance, however you want to color it, it's all the same stuff, right? I could not tell you exactly how to fix your butterfly stroke, right? But I can tell you how to be a better athlete and get something out of the weight room. Primarily, most of our athletes are high school age. We've got a couple college athletes who come back and forth. My boss actually works with a girl, or a woman really, who was Olympic alternative for the rowing team this last year in Paris, I think is where it was. I don't pay attention to the Olympics, sadly.
So, how does that usually work out? It's the programming you do for them is it the Joel Seedman shit where you do 90-degree partials.
Yeah, absolutely.
Banded workouts.
Oh no. As different as every sport is, it's honestly all the same stuff at the same time. So realistically, when you get a freshman in high school, how much sports specific stuff do you really need? You're talking about a kid who walks in the weight room and gets 50 plus points to his testosterone stat, and all of a sudden his bench press goes up because he looked at a dumbbell, right? So you're not doing anything super fancy across the board. Obviously, I pay a little bit more special attention to things okay, if you're a swimmer, I need your triceps to be a little bit stronger and have a little bit more endurance than say my rowers, right? Because that's completely pulling the whole time, whereas at some point in the swim stroke you have a little bit of elbow extension and you have to be able to maintain that posture. But that's kind of this small detail, and if you go on Instagram, that's the one detail where they're this is the biggest thing in the world, and it's you've worked with 5 athletes, so that's not true. But as you start to climb a little bit, that's where you see a little bit more differentiation between the athletes. But a lot of the programming looks pretty similar, with exception to how's their season line up. Because if I'm a swimmer, that's at least with the club we work with, that's pretty much year round. whereas the boat club has basically 2 racing seasons, and then they have 2 off seasons. So their kind of periodization model ends up looking a little bit different across the board once you get into that point. But as far as like, do we do specific movements at 90 degrees only with the SSB being used as a row? No, like nothing like that.
I'm just trying to imagine grabbing onto the handles.
I've always wanted to set it up and try it because I'm like, there's no way that's hard. Like I just want to feel it. You know what I mean? Where it's like, I know it's not going to work, but I need to confirm to myself that it's not going to work. Right?
If you're Joel Seaman, you can make it look hard, and that's all that matters.
So the thing I've learned is working with high school athletes, and then I look at what Joel Seedman does. I'm like, he had to have just walked in the gym and seen a high schooler do something, because like half the stuff is like stuff that I'll walk in and a kid will be like, "Can I try this today?" And then like 3 weeks later, I see it like being done by Joel Seedman, and I'm like,
that's where he just goes to the local Y, films all the kids.
That's kind of creepy.
Which has some other implications that we might not want to discuss here.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
No, but tell us a little bit about like your powerlifting. What fed you compete in. What you've been doing in powerlifting ultimately.
Well, at the current moment, subject to change, I compete in PLU. Who knows how long that'll last, right? Am I right, boys?
USPA, WRPF, PLU. ABS is the next thing, apparently. Yeah.
Dude, listen, at this point, like, so Dave Tate said this a lot. He said it, like, pretty frequently. It's just, like, you're just more likely to compete where the people around you compete when you first get into the sport. And, like, when I was getting in the sport, again, like, putting context into it, I learned about powerlifting through Andy Deck, who's a strongman who's sponsored by Elite FTS. So my first interaction was, like, Westside Multiply, and Mark's gonna have a knip shit about that, obviously, right? And Louis, oh my god, right? But I was just like, oh, okay, that's sick, that's really strong, and they don't have to do a lot of conditioning. Like, that's it. That's what I'm gonna do, right? So I think I did my first meet in 2017. It's actually like not on Open Powerlifting, which is weird. It was 100% raw, so it's not a real fed as far as I know, but I mean, it is a fed, but like anymore. That was naked knee, just a belt. I went like 5 for 9 in the head.
I did the same thing, 2017, except I went RPS. It's actually on record. Naked knee, because I thought it was cheating if you wore knee sleeves.
Knee sleeves are cheating.
Oh no! See, I was just broke.
That's a cope.
I was just broke. I was a broke college student. Like, if I had any money, like, I was spending it on, like, Colt 45. And, you know what I mean? Like, it was not good. It was not a good time in my life. So sometimes when people ask me, like, how long you been lifting? I'm like, well, like, with a debuff on, or with, like, just normal training, right? And, you know, I make no bones about it, but, like, I'm 5 years sober now, but like when I was in college and then thereafter for a couple years, like I would train super hard, but then like within 2 days I'd just be like, all right, I need to get drunk again, right? And it's like, it was a wild time. It was not fun in some ways, but like I learned a lot about like not doing silly stuff and how it impacts training. So anyways, I think I did like Shaco. I think I was doing.
I've done Shaco as well. Oh,
honestly, you're lucky you didn't have money, because you might have bought a multiply suit and went down that rabbit hole.
In my college weight room. See, like I was dumb, but I was like smart enough to know that wasn't gonna work, right?
Fair enough.
I think the West Side stuff is cool in some regards, but I'm not so dumb that I'm like, yeah, I could be at West Side. No, that's like not me at all. I am such like a pacifist, like non-aggressive guy that like and I met Louis probably looked at me and was like, all right, like maybe he can lift a little weight, but this boy's soft. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and I admit that. I totally admit that.
Bro, the moment that turned me off from multiply lifting, I remember like I was just getting to powerlifting, so I'm looking at the numbers. I'm like, all right, so what's the benchmark for strength over here? You know, like at LA Fitness, like fucking 315 pounds, like you're the guy. Like people.
Yeah,
give
that's
like,
legit
like
back then.
Legit, you know, like people be like at the gym like, oh man, he's on steroids, you know.
That might still be legit at LA Fitness.
It might well be. I think 225 is still legit at LA Fitness.
It definitely is.
You know?
Well, I'm not going back to check. I tell you that much.
So I'm looking at the numbers, right, for like the records for my weight class. At the time I was 220, so I'm looking at this like, you know, like this is like, let's see where I'm at. And I look at this shit, and I did like a fucking triple take. I'm like, fucking 800 and whatever, how many pounds? I'm like, how the fuck? I'm like, I'll never be strong. Like, I'm a fucking weakling. And then I started like unpacking this and figuring this out. Like, all right, this guy did this, but he did this in what's called multiply. I'm like, what the fuck is multiply? Get into this. I researched it. I'm like, oh, the cheating motherfuckers, bro. Because there's no asterisk. There's nothing there to talk about. Like, how like this, it's because we have gear on with the cases. There's no, here's this number, here's the record. That's not a fucking record, bro. Like, at least in the context of like the overall sport, you need to have something to distinguish it. And it constantly would just be like, you'd see like, this is how much he lifted. It's a world record, but in the context of with fucking multiply gear on. If you wear the fucking the bench shirt on, you're probably like lifting another like 500, 600 pounds on top of what you can fucking press.
Yeah,
squats is the same thing.
You say that, and then like I can go find you like 6 Instagrams accounts of like raw dudes being like, I'm a record holder, and it's like you are like submaster, military firefighter division, like 148.
Soon.
You know what I mean? And like this is like I said, like I was making fun of this. He's a client of mine now, but I was making fun of him because he's like, yeah, I think I could take the national junior squat record in the USPA for drug tested, and I was like, well, you're in high school. I hope you're drug tested, right? But I was like, no one cares about that record, right? And I was like, if you get it, like, sick, I'm here for you. I'll high five you, but like, no one cares. And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, who has that record before you? And he was like, oh, I don't know. And I was like, see, you don't even care about it, right?
Well, the same thing's true, like the USPA, like fucking worlds. People call themselves world champions. I'm like, bro, what's your competition? What would you place at a USAPL meet in weight class, bro? Would you even place on the podium?
Right. So there's another guy who was coaching him at the time who did drug tested wrapped IPL worlds and was like going around, and he was like, oh, I'm a world caliber competitor and I have like national records, and like he's a 181 and he wouldn't have even made prime time like with his wrapped. And I was just like, I'm trying not to be a hater, but like I'm a D1 hater, so if I see you in person, I'm making fun of you. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not taking you seriously. Like, because I was helping this gym set up for like a novice meet, and like anything powerlifting, like if I can give time to it, like I usually try to. And
love to
like
hear it.
The girl at the desk was like, oh, we have this world record holder. Oh my God. And I'm like, all right, like, I don't know who this is. Cause I was thinking maybe like she means Sam Calhoun, who's from Virginia Beach, which isn't far from me. And I'm like, okay, maybe she's come up once or twice. And then she said the guy's name, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna open power. And I just like open powerlifting it, and I had to like hold my face in and like just pure disgust. Like, you are tricking these people, but you won't trick me. You know what I mean? Like I don't have patience for it.
Yeah. I really think it's also like part of the reason that some people just don't take powerlifting as seriously, because you have 84 different federations. Each one of them has their own records. Each one of them has like a international like entity, and then that's a world record. And then you're like, no, but this guy just is like half your body weight, lifted more than you, and he's still not hitting a world record. So like, I don't know. Like, I think for me, like if somebody were to hit a world record, I would only count it if it was like amongst all drug tested lifters or amongst all untested lifters. That makes more sense.
Right. No, I 100% agree. And like my thing with that is like, I don't care about records. Like it just doesn't matter to me unless it is a world record across the board, like you're saying. But like to me, it's always been like, when I'm sure you guys have experienced this, like some random person just comes up to you and they're like, well, is this strong for this body weight? And it's like, are you happy with it? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, so why does it matter what I feel about this? Like, if you're happy about it, be happy about it. But don't think that I'm going to be like, oh yeah, that's fantastic to make you feel better. Because if you're like a 200-pound man benching like 225, congrats. Like, a lot of people can't do that. I'm gonna high five you for your progress. But like, once you've kind of experienced like what you can actually do, like what the human body's capable of, and you've been around people where you're like, how is that possible? You're like, yeah, 225, like, high five, bro. We're all in it together. But no, I'm not calling that strong. I'm sorry. Like, I'm not trying to hurt your feelings, but it's like a whole different ball game.
If you're a 130-pound woman, that's strong. If you're a 230-pound man, like, maybe, let's get moving, bro.
And people take it the wrong way, and I'm like, dude, I've like seen a guy walk in the gym who used to play football at with it actually twice now, and this is why I say it's real sports, like real field sport athletes who are like truly gifted. Like they've never done powerlifting, just walked in the gym naked knee and do like 700 pounds, and like that's insane. It's insane.
That is insane.
And you're like okay, like this guy's literally done squatting maybe like 16 months out of the year, every year for the last 8 years, and yet he's like that level of athlete.
But you know, honestly though, it's also very tough to gauge with football and whatnot. You know, coming from football background myself, the amount of people who are untested in football,
that's
it's
true,
through the roof. Like legit, and they have kids like on at young ages and that kind of shit. I remember even high school when I was in high school, like back in the fucking early 2000s, shit, like kids being on fucking gear. I'm like, what the fuck? That hasn't changed. So people say it's TikTok doing it. It's always been extended.
Oh yeah, no, it's
always
100% been there. It's
You know,
100%.
So it's tough to tell off of that. That said, I know at the firehouse, like that, the first firehouse that I got out in Harlem, I head out to the gym with one of these guys and show. This is like back when I was like fucking, when I had a couple of years on my belt at the powerlifting, and I was like, you know, bench pressing 355, 365. We're getting up, we're gearing up like the fucking lift and so on and so forth. And this guy who hasn't touched fucking weights in I don't know how many fucking years before being a firefighter, he's a bricklayer, gets into the bench and fucking proceeds on his first go around to fucking smack 345. It's like all janky. His arms like moving all over the place. What about 345 pounds? This guy, you know, maybe lifted fucking maybe like 5 or 6 years ago. Never did anything like that. I'm looking at this. I'm like, what in the fuck am I doing wrong, bro?
You just made Mark feel so sad.
He was like a wall of a human being.
I'm always sad about when we talk about bench press. Okay.
Oh
So it's
man.
about deadlifts.
No, I don't want to talk
better.
about
Yo, let's talk about deadlift, Gabe.
that. No, I got these short little stubby arms, man. This shit aggravates me so much. Oh my god. People always say that. They're like, oh man, look at your quads. You must be good at squatting. I'm like, yeah, let's keep the topic there. Keep the topic there. Like, don't talk about deadlift.
You could dabble into bench press a little bit, but deadlifts.
Yeah. Well, like even in this topic, like you walk in the gym and like I'm certainly not genetically gifted in any way. Well, I guess I am in some regards. Like I think obviously even when I was in college, like drinking all the time, I copied like a max effort workout and a lower upper body dynamic effort workout. No, watch, dude, I got to a 315 bench doing like the silliest YouTube workout I had seen on a Westside Barbell video. And like people will keep like telling me, and so in some ways I'm like, okay, I must have been gifted in some regards because that happened, right? And a lot of people have a hard time doing that. But then like people will be like, oh, you know, you got to have everything right to bench 225, and I'm like, what are we like? No, you just need to get out of bed angry. Like that's about it, you know. I'm like, I just don't get it, and like I have to like remind myself of that so often, even like when I work with the kids. I think the beautiful thing working with the kids, as far as how it affects like my powerlifting coaching, is I always have beginners. Like, so when I get a new online client, I'm never like, what do you mean you don't know how to brace? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you come across those people and you almost take for granted, like, oh, this is a skill that not everyone has. And so because we constantly have, I mean, I think the youngest age group we work with is like 9 or 10, and it's not like I'm teaching them how to Valsalva at 9 or 10, just to be clear. That'd be insane, right? But like, it's just been this blessing in that regard where you're like, okay, like I know how to teach a beginner how to do these things and formulate it in a way that they can understand. Because kids are uniquely dumb in a way that stresses you out because you're like, you are a brilliant individual, and yet that frontal lobe not being developed impacts us so differently than I want it to.
Bro, I had a 15-year-old I was working with, right? And this kid's getting ready for his first meet. Like, prep's going fucking wonderful. Things are fantastic. And then he hits me up say the week of the meet. Like on Monday, he goes, Coach, so I got shit-faced last night. He's 15 years old, never drank his entire life. I'm like, bro, what the fuck, man?
Yeah, at that age, he's probably not even hungover, though. Not that I condone it. I just speaking from experience.
Bro, no, there was a difference. Like immediately see the impact. He had like some easy ass fucking session to go in, sends me the footage. Like, you're still fucking drunk,
dude.
Kids these days, huh?
Yeah, yeah, kids these
wholesome
days.
kid. I never
These
would have seen
days.
it happen. You know, fucking 15.
Oh,
Yeah, back in
God,
the days, they just shut up fucking cocaine and call it a day. Fuck it.
Yeah, back in the day when Four Loko had caffeine in it.
Oh, I heard of those good old days. Never experienced
That
it.
was the good old days.
I had a friend in high school who his mom found him in his closet, and she's like, "Why do you have these sodas in your closet? What you can put them in the fridge." I was
Mom,
like,
don't
"Dog."
touch my sodas. Those are my special sodas, Mom.
It's like, "Dog, you gotta throw those out. You gotta pretend that never happened. Don't bring it up again, because if she figures out, you're so screwed." Oh man.
Yeah, man. So, 1 second.
Oh, you're good. I get sidetracked
he's-
so easily because we were talking about how I got into powerlifting. We started talking about Four Locos. This is how
I know. I'm like, where? What the hell? I'm like, I was just like, how did the conversation even
Yeah.
get here?
Oh, so
This is my 15-year-old. The kid who got shit faced.
So anyway, I competed 2017. I went 5 for 9. The head judge like whispered in my ear on my third attempt bench because I was about to bomb out. I kept going up. I just kept missing the rack command. I just didn't prep for that at all. And he leans in before he tells me start, and he's like, "I swear to God, if you don't just wait for the command, so help me God." And I just was like terrified of it, and I was like. And he's like, rack. And I racked it. And he's like, fucking thank you. And so, like, I was hooked after that. I was like, this is a blast. Like, this is the easiest thing I've ever had to do. I only had to do it 9 times. And then, you quickly figure out within, like, 2 years of that, like, oh, it's not that easy. Partially because I was just drinking so much. And 2, just, like, the life stress because I was going into law school. So, I still competed during that time, like, again, the next meet was naked knee. I think I squatted like 485. I think I pulled forward like 85. I got into knee wraps after. I'm looking to do a knee wrap meet again if I can like not pull my groin yet again. Seems to be a recurring theme for me. So I'll do that again. But after I did wraps, I was like, all right, let me get into sleeves and just hang in sleeves until I can beat my wrap squat because I think my best wrap squat was like 600. So I was like, when I beat that in sleeves, I'll know, like, I'll have a big wrap squat after that. And it's just taken a bit because I've moved around the country, getting into strength and conditioning and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in Arizona, I was in Iowa. I was just working long hours, and it was like, okay, I'm not going to be optimally training. It's just not going to happen. I'm working like 13-hour days, but like if I just stay the course, it'll get there. And so my last meet, I think it was my 8th or 9th meet, I ended up totaling 1709, and that was that before the split? That might have been WRPF or PLU. I don't know, man. Like, I don't know at this point. It's
Does
an
it
alphabet,
even matter,
right?
to be honest?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. I had judges say my lifts were good. You know what I mean?
Like PLUs basically take WRPF and you keep like fucking.
Oh, yeah.
You
Okay.
you keep like 2 individuals out of it, and that's PLU.
What did you end up squatting that meet?
639.2.
And that was in
was like-
sleeves or wraps?
That was sleeves.
Oh,
That was
hell yeah.
sleeves.
Bare knees.
It certainly wasn't bare knees. It certainly was my inzers that were
Naked
incorrectly
knees.
sized. I swear I had one.
My
large,
extra
one medium.
small inzers.
Dude, no, so my friend Gabby, she was handling me for a meet. I love Gabby. She's awesome. I think she's a better coach than I am. Like, I say that all the time. She gets mad at me for it. But she's been doing it longer. She's pulled off my sleeves before, like during that prep. I would go up to Richmond and hang out and squat with her. And she was like, your right one is always way tighter. And so I was like, oh, maybe my right quad is just bigger. So then like the next week I switched the legs. Like I had marked them. And no, it's that sleeve was sized incorrectly. It's like, it was like almost like a small and a half. And I had a medium on the other leg because I got little baby calves.
But they
And then
both said mediums?
yes.
Yeah,
I
it's a thing
promise
with
you.
stiff sleeves.
It's actually a thing.
Yeah, we actually had a long conversation about quality control of knee sleeves
Which
earlier,
does not
so-
exist.
Yeah, so that tracks.
Yeah.
Which, in fairness, I have not had that problem since I took on some white toe. You know?
So
There's-
talking
there's-
about.
there's your ad, right?
Thank you.
So I benched 408 finally, and that was a big deal for me at that meet because I told Dave, my coach, I was like, I swear, if I don't bench over 400 pounds, I don't even care if it's 403. I'm still gonna call it 4 plates. Hit me with a car because I'm just so. I think I had like 4 meets in a row at like 365, 370, or like 380, and I would just like get stuck. And a lot of it was just because I would chase it in training, and I realize that now. My deadlift, I pulled 661, which wasn't my best pull ever, but it was good enough. I don't care. It's platform PR. You can't really be mad about that. But like in the context of the journey of powerlifting, like that 405 is like a big deal. And so for me, 2 years in to like actually training in college and like being like, oh, okay, I have a goal now to bench 315 relatively quickly in terrible circumstances, to getting sober and then taking even longer to bench 405, I was just so over it at that point. So when I hit it, I was just like ready to just cry, because I was like, thank God I got the monkey off my back for once. And now it's like, okay, well, now you got to climb to 500. Well, 425 first, but long term the goal is 500. So if I don't blow it back off.
What did you find helped out your bench most, apart from not chasing it and which I understand is something I tell a whole lot of my lifters, is to not burn out bench press, because if there's one lift that people when they want to push, it's
so
they push
easy.
too much is bench press. So
It's a lot easier to push the bench press too,
really
like
is.
multiple times a week, just overshoot. It's like
It's just less systemically
And
fatiguing.
also,
yeah,
2.5 kilos makes a lot of difference as well, because
Yeah.
it's a lot less
yes, yep.
So I think one of the big things, and Mark and I have talked a lot about this, was like I've adopted velocity based training really heavily into my training.
Mark's the go-to guy for this. I want to say, like the whole sport powerlifting, I think I want to say as well read on this as Mark is, apart from maybe the pioneers perhaps.
Yeah,
I mean, to be fair, Gabe's coach I think has like a PhD in this. In like some, I think his dissertation was in velocity based training.
Gabe
And
so his isn't in velocity based training.
Oh.
It was part of his actual dissertation that some of the athletes were using velocity.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. His was on client communication and feedback.
Oh, okay. Then obviously I'm more well read. Then I'm kidding.
Hey man, that's not my beef to take. But I got into it because obviously I'm a West Side barbell acolyte. So Louis had a tendo, so I had to go buy a $3,000 tendo. No, I'm kidding. When I got to Iowa, when I was at William Penn University in Iowa, they had a tendo just in the locker, just dusty, and I was like, is anyone using this? And they were like, no, we use the Bluetooth ones, which I have to say, like, I'm not trying to poop on any of the Bluetooth ones. I found their ability to be someone's gonna get really nitpicky about the difference between accuracy and precision here in a minute, but like I don't find them to be accurate, to the point where like I hooked up the tendo, my Vitruve unit that I eventually bought, and then the Bluetooth unit, and it was like the tendo and the Vitruve were the same speed, and then the Bluetooth one like missed half the reps, and then it was still off by like a little bit, not like a substantial
When
amount.
you say Bluetooth, like what do you mean by that?
So it's literally just a cap on the bar.
Oh, like it is an accelerometer?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
I don't
Leica-
think too many people make them anymore. I know like I
Leica
think
had
Perch does a camera one. Sorry, what were you saying,
Yeah.
Mateo?
I was saying Eleiko had some kind of feature like that. They had like. The
Oh my
barbell
God, I
had,
forgot
like, a
about
velocity
that.
tracker. Yeah, they did it.
That
for a
must have
really
not
short
panned
time.
out very well because I haven't heard
definitely
anything
not.
about that
Who would've
since they
thought?
dropped it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the accelerometers aren't that accurate as far as I know. And I know I've read some studies where they've compared those to actual LPTs and like and I've also heard people who have used them before like say similar things, like they don't track every repetition.
Well,
and
that even happens with Vitruve, so I can only imagine with something that has Bluetooth on there how much you're missing there.
Yeah.
Vitruve, you'll have it connected like for bench press. Why I stopped using it is I kept like working up to the top set, it's just not registering. This is with the cable on there and it pulling in everything for whatever reason. I'm also like half a Neanderthal, so it has
Yeah, no, you bugged it up 100%.
100%.
Another thing
but
that I noticed, another
Go
thing
ahead.
that I noticed with Church Truth when I was deadlifting, because I also have short arms, like I would get stuck on my thighs, and like it would think that I had finished the rep.
Yeah, I've seen that
and
too. I've seen that when people even
of
get
times.
stuck. They take a hard rep and they get stuck halfway up, and then then they get once they get the bar moving again, it counts it
Yeah.
as like 2 repetitions.
Yep.
Yeah, and like I think the funny thing is like after I was getting to a certain speed, it just wouldn't read on the Bluetooth stuff. Like 100%. I could guarantee, like I've had benches. I'd have to go back and find video of it, but like I've had benches move at a .09 meters per second. Like just the most like just stop. Like, what are you doing?
That's my slowest bench rep. I want to go slower than that. I think I can.
It's like, dog, what is good? Like, just let your spotter take it to that point. Like, you know, and it's like, no, I have to, right?
I have to keep pushing.
But, you know, like the Bluetooth would just not read it. And then like the Vitruve is like 0.09. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm never buying a Bluetooth one again. I'm like, if I break my Vitruve, I'll just buy another one. I don't care. Even though it's like $400 some odd. But I have found that was worth it for my bench press. The other thing was, because I am a West Side barbell acolyte, I am super. Mark just looks down. I super tricep dominant. Like if once I get it like just a little bit off the chest, you'll see it just pops out. So for me, like I've always felt like I'm super weak in the bottom, and part of that is just because I didn't spend enough time like long pausing. And even then, the thing that I think really helped was I bought a camber bar. So I think it was the I want to say it was a Duffalo. It might have been a Duffalo. And I bought it for my squats because it took the pressure off my elbows for low bar, and I was like, okay, I can squat heavy and bench within a similar time frame now. And then like I was like, oh, okay, I'll bench with it, and then like all of a sudden I was just hitting above 300 pretty consistently on that bar, and it's like, okay, it's an extra inch. You know, that's got to mean something if I could only do like 255, 265 for a couple reps at a time before my pecs felt like they're just going to explode, and now I'm doing like 315 for triples on it. That has to be a meaningful increase. And so I think just finding that kind of, and it'll change, right? Because you're never the same lifter. There's going to be certain lifts that maybe work a little bit better depending on what your leverages are and like how trained you are in a specific position and what your previous training block looked like and how you sequence that together. But I think the big thing is the VBT, the camber bar, and the threat of getting hit by a car and playing in traffic if I didn't bench it. I mean, the three of those together, that's just perfect.
And you ran the camber bar bench into that meet?
Yeah, up until about...
That you benched 408 or 407?
Yeah, I think
it's 407, by the way.
Oh, my God.
185 kilos, 407.
I'm sorry, I don't talk to people who can't bench 350.
Hey,
anyways.
I don't talk to people who can't do basic kilo conversions.
Listen here.
Well, that makes me as well.
Football, you guys.
Terrible at kilo math. Oh my god, bro. I know 185. I know 300. That was the hallmark.
Oh, that's why you guys just talk in colors.
Yeah, exactly.
Blue.
Pretty much.
Dude, I don't know, man. I just show
Fucking
up.
Dr. Seuss math over here for you.
It kind of reminds me of that time at New York States with that one athlete Yuli had, Aaron, with the second attempt deadlift. That it was 530 pounds, and he put 230 kilos instead.
Oh, that was me going full
Yeah.
dyslexic, like legit, like bouncing back before one thing after the other.
That's 507 pounds because I could do the conversions, and I don't have a calculator.
Oh,
it was a
All right,
mistake.
listen here, Rain Man. Relax.
I'm not actually doing the math. I've spotted and loaded so many meets that I just know them.
That
at that
less
point.
to do. That had less to do with math and more to do with like it was like my third or fourth
Yeah.
lifter of the day and whatnot, and like the people at the desk like busting my chops about things. It's like, oh yeah, it's like 530 pounds. How many kilo? Okay, it's gonna be 230 kilos. That was a moment. Oh God, bro. Oh, I hate it when this shit happens.
Dude, long meet days, I've never had to handle like several athletes at a meet until actually my friend Gabby was competing. And she had a couple of her athletes there, and she was like, "Listen, can you handle me because I'm gonna have like two other people handle the rest of my athletes. I'm gonna pay attention to them, but like I also need you to tell me like, hey, like go sit the fuck down, go warm up. Like you can't be focused on coaching, right?" And so we have a relationship where I can just be like, "Listen, shut up, go sit in the corner." Like she's cool with that. But then I started taking over handling the other clients too. And like there was another girl helping us. She's fantastic, Laura. And I was just like, by the end of the day, I was like, so many numbers, like flight order.
The most
It's exhausting.
Dude, I got spooked. I got spooked at the meet because I was like, something's not right because someone got hurt. So the timeline started taking longer. And I was like, oh no, I missed getting her open already. Like, oh my God. And then I go and check out and like there's a dude laying like on the ground. And I was like, no, okay, like we're good. Apparently he like tore his quad in the bottom and they grabbed him so quick, like he passed out. Like they stood him up so quick. He just like fainted. Yeah.
I mean, could have been worse.
Yeah, no, it could have been way worse. But the side judge was telling me, he was like, yeah, I heard something ripping, and I thought it was his knee sleeve, and apparently it was like his quad.
Oh,
And I was like,
nice.
yeah.
Damn, bro. Oof.
Good. Hey, excellent
Yeah, it
spot
sucks.
crew. You gotta give credit to the people who spot and load well. I mean, honestly.
No, but like having many lifters a day, it can be an extremely stressful experience, to be honest. Legit,
Yeah.
if your hand, because you have to pay attention to what's happening with each one of the attempts. You have to get the warm ups ready and whatnot. You have so much going on, on the platform as well. And I remember doing it for 6 people at one meet. Gleason, I don't know if you remember that, Mateo.
Yeah,
It was like,
I was there.
Bro,
I was lifting.
everybody in the mother, was like half the team at the time was there. It was bro, like running back and forth and making sure everything was in there.
Yep.
Never. wanted
It's
to-
rough when you have like multiple lifters in the same flight,
Yeah.
And particularly
in the
new
same
lifters.
session. Yeah,
And the
it's-
worst part,
and then-
that day, I was the only person that was on a different flight compared to everybody else. So he had like 3 or 4 people on the same flight, and I was the flight after. So I was just like,
and he keeps
like,
like running
whenever-
over. I'm sure he's like, "Are you okay?"
I was like, whenever you get a chance, can you just take a look at this? Like, no rush.
Yeah, no, I don't need to be ready for anything. Don't worry.
But he'd actually had a meet on his belt.
Yeah.
Like, had a couple
Yeah.
of lifters
Yeah,
that day.
good.
It was the first meet. And it's a lot to deal with because you have to tell them, what it's like, I guess, like to squat, like to command and to bench to command. My thing is this. I tell people, first time lifters, I'm like, Simon says. It's that simple. You don't move until Simon says for you to move.
Yeah.
And it
Imagine
sticks.
the wait for it. Imagine the wait for it. Simon says bench, press. Simon says rack. They're like, I waited for this.
He's
Simon
not
says.
actually going to say Simon says. Okay,
Yeah.
He didn't say Simon says.
he didn't say that.
I'm waiting.
Why did you throw him out? He didn't say Simon says.
didn't say.
You know, one person who
He was
takes
just saying
everything too
press. You
literal.
can't
Yeah.
get me like that.
Oh my gosh. No, and you know what even compounds the stressfulness of that? I've been in I think the powerlifting community by and large, there's like a lot of fantastic welcoming people, but you get in some meets and people are like, this is my warm-up rack. And it's
I
like,
hate
listen,
that.
big dog,
Oh, Lord.
I don't care. Like, we all need to warm up. Get over yourself. The only exception to that I think would apply is like, okay, you're gonna use the mono as it's intended. It's like you need to get ready for the hooks to swing out. Like, if I'm walking out of the mono, like God forbid, it's like there's 2 warm up monos, there's like 20 people on both. I'm gonna just go find a squat rack. I don't care that much. I just like the mono because I'm like weirdly proportioned, so being able to adjust it really easy is nice. If I could bench out of a mono, I totally would. I did that like way back in the day to piss off one of the gym owners. He thought it was super funny. He like looked at the security footage and was like, "That's not what this is for, sir." And I was like, "I know. I was just waiting for you to see it."
I don't know. I think there can be something said about like a little bit more optimization for the warm-up rooms, I guess, like at meets and whatnot. Particularly now, it's 2025. Powerlifting has been around long enough and whatnot. Like we have technologies at our like I want to say at our disposal to help out, like lifting, casting, that kind of stuff. You put your attempts in, your openers and whatnot in. You put basically your rack heights in, and I think off of that you can optimize things. If somebody is at a rack height of a 7, another person's at a rack height of a 19, maybe they don't squat in the same rack.
Oh my god, dude!
Like,
Dude,
the
but
common sense.
That's basic logic, right? Like
Bro.
that happened.
No, you think it's.
I mean,
basic
that is
logic.
the point of a combo rack, though.
No, it
True,
is.
but if you have like 450 pounds over here, and I have to go down to 100.
I think weight. Lifters that are lifting similar loads are easy. Like even if one is really tall and one is really
true.
short,
I agree. There's
moving the uprights is pretty easy.
I would say, what's the chances of that though? If it's really a 7 and a 19 spread, you know what I mean?
I mean, it's
You have some
it's-
squat specialists.
we
Oh
all
my
know
God.
that.
125
that
kg weight
it
class
varies quite a
happens.
bit. Yeah, I
125
mean,
is
That's fair. That's fair.
I mean, we've tried like at Gleason meets, like we've tried, or Ryan has tried to like assign warm up racks. Like once people put in all their openers, all their opener attempts, he kind of gets a good idea of like, okay, I can stick 4 people on this rack, I can stick these 4 on this rack, and it's probably a lot of work to do because you don't have a lot of time to do that either with a 2-hour weigh-in. I know that might be a little different for Gabe with his 24-hour weigh-in, but to do it, to get like, and
Not even water cut for it though.
I waited last month for next week's meet.
no, but it worked out. But it worked out really well the time that he did it at a meet that I was there, and it kind of kept people from claiming a rack and saying this is my rack, and it allowed everybody to just work
So much more
together.
harmony.
And yeah, it was a lot
I think there
smoother,
should
a
be
lot
layers
more
to this.
efficient.
It comes down to and you're right. Weight is the most important thing, and then like height. and then basically from that you work on.
Yeah, because if you're like pulling reds, like if someone has like 4 reds on the bar and then this other person has to squat 2 reds, like that's a pain in the ass. That's way worse than having to move the upright up 6 spaces.
But
You know
also
what I mean?
increase the chances somebody's going to get injured. If you're unloading and reloading plates over and over again, you're doing so under speed and so on and so forth, something's going to go wrong. And you see this shit happening all the time.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how many of my lifters themselves who coach their own people or like, do spotting and loading at meets and whatnot have gotten hurt precisely off this kind of shit. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a safety element which also needs to be considered. And let's make sure more efficient. You're gonna have people behind the scenes deal with the stresses of meet day to begin with. Maybe as a meet director, if you're collecting money on this, maybe we do just like a little bit more, like I want to say, work behind the scenes to kind of make it a little bit more user friendly.
For sure.
I don't see this. I don't see the point of not doing it. And it's not that hard. Frankly, if you have your list in, you have maybe 50 people in the competition with that. You just look at the openers. What do you see for squats over here? What do you see for the heights? Boom, 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 boom. 4 categories, done.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. I think even more than that, I'd like to institute a rule where if it's flight A warming up and you are in flight B trying to get on a rack, you should be taken out back and shot. I think that's a fair concession. I'm so sick of that.
No, so I was actually at a meet a couple weeks, or maybe a month ago, where the warm-up room was actually like in another room in the gym, and if you were not in the flight that was warming up, you could not be in the room. Like there was like a dude going around like kicking you out, and it was like, "Are you warming up here? Like get out! No, you can come in after they're done."
You love to hear it.
Yeah,
I've had so many different warm-up room experiences, and I always thought okay, this is just a me thing. I just have this weird exposure to weird stuff, and it's like, no, this is common. People hanging out in the warm-up room, and it's like, dog, everyone smells bad here. Just go sit in the crowd.
Yeah. Another one is sorry to cut you off. I was just, another one is so that same meet I coached in both sessions. So the morning session, as soon as it was getting over, right, all the second session lifters were coming in, and they were just crowding around the warm-up area, crowding around where we were waiting to take our attempts, or where the lifters were waiting to take their attempts, and it's like, guys, you're all in the way. I get that you want to come in and mingle with everybody, but could you just sit in the crowd, where the spectators are?
FaceTime me.
How about that? You're making it tough for everyone to maneuver around here. Get the fuck out of here.
When I was in Iowa, I did a meet, and Dan Bell was one of the side judges. That was one. Dan Bell is a massive human being. I don't his head was the size of my torso. It was insane. I was like, okay, but I was taking one of my last warm up squats, and I was in wraps at this point. I think that's the meet where I did my heaviest wrap squat. So, but this kid walks behind me right as I'm walking out, and I was put it back into the mono hooks, and I just looked at the kid, and he was probably 5. I was like, what the hell are you doing, right? And the mom comes over and is like, don't yell at my kid. And I'm like, okay, 1, ma'am, didn't even yell. 2, what is he doing back here?
Yeah, why is there a 5-year-old in the warm-up room?
Yeah.
Right. And it was just it was so weird. And then thankfully the meet director came over, and because he saw there's some commotion, and she is just being really the commotion was just her being loud about her kid, and he was just look, your kid is in a dangerous area. I don't think this person's mad or trying to harm your kid. I think he's this is not safe. You need to be somewhere else. And I was like, yeah, I don't need this little buddy back spotting me. You know what I mean? He's not gonna do me a lot of good. All 80 pounds of him just waddling around. It's not. Dude, it's just so much warm-up room stuff. XPC Worlds in 2016, someone got beat up and they peed in their backpack. That's untested powerlifting. That's awesome.
What in the fuck?
Yeah, dude.
Establishes dominance. Oh my god.
I didn't compete at that meet.
Hold on, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Did the guy that got beat up pee in the guy that beat him up's backpack, or was it? The guy beat up another person, then peed in his backpack.
Yeah, so apparently, okay, so
beating him up wasn't enough, I guess. I had to pee in the backpack after.
Yeah, well, so this is the thing, right? You and I have talked about this, Mark. Is you can hate on Westside Barbell. This is not Westside affiliated. This is not Westside affiliated, by the way. But the amount of shit talking that happens now in powerlifting online, and then when everyone sees each other, it's all hunky dory or no.
Oh yeah,
And again, I've already said I'm a pacifist. I just think if you're going to say crazy things to me, you should hold that. Like, if you have to beat me up, cool. Like, that's what you got to do. But don't be different in person, because that's just weird. Because then I don't know what this is. But, like, apparently, like, these two, like, I think they were super heavy guys, had been, like, the whole 12 weeks into the meet, which is hysterical to me. Like y'all have beef over, like, squatting, you know what I mean? Like, what are we talking about? Apparently they've just been talking crazy to each other, and then, like, the dude was like, okay, listen, you keep talking like this. When I see you, it's on. And the dude was like, okay, fine. And I think one person meant that and the other person didn't.
And then they met up and kissed.
Yes, well, maybe hand-to-face kiss, but, you know.
They met up and pissed. Yeah.
Oh, my God. Which I saw
Yeah.
Dave Hoff at that meet. That's when I realized, like, everyone's really short in the sport. And so, again, I was 5'7", so I was competing at, like, 198, 220, bouncing around there. And I was like, damn, like, Russell Orhees, like, this was, like, right when he was getting,
Bro,
I guess, a little more popular.
when
I
I
was like,
met
oh, he's
Russell
181. And then I see him in person, and I'm like, oh,
5'2".
okay. Yeah, I was like, this makes
Bro,
sense
he's
now. 'Cause
puny.
Dave Hoff is my height at 315. At
Yeah,
5'7", he's 315.
Bro, that's
he
a power
looks
thing.
like a
Yo,
meatball.
Jesus Olivares is like fucking 5'7", 5'8" tops.
That's
No,
awesome.
no.
Right,
No,
boys.
No,
He's
he's
fucking
not. No, he's not.
puny. He's fucking
I thought he's like-
short, bro.
From what he's saying.
Listen, you're like 5'4", so he's gonna look fucking. He's gonna be towering to you.
Look, I'm 5'7" with my heel shoes. Okay.
Bro, he
With
is
my
short.
lifters. With my
Bro,
lifters.
he is short. He is short. So I remember
Hey,
seeing him at
Zeus or me
nationals.
or both?
What's up?
Hey, Zeus or me or both?
Both.
No, I think he's like close to 6, but like not quite 6.
He's like 5'8", 5'9",
foot.
I want to say tops.
I don't
Yeah,
believe.
I've told that lie on Tinder, too. Don't worry.
I feel you.
I'm 5'10". I'm 5'10".
And then I remember seeing Russell Ori. I did a double take in the direction. I'm like, no fucking way, he's this short. But you look at the videos when he's squatting, like the same squat rack that I'll use. He'll be squatting out of a 7, and I'm at a 16. That's the difference. I'm 6'2",
Yeah.
and he's like fucking like maybe 5'2".
I'm going to
Like
say, I
5'2",
think I
5'3",
bench
something
out of like
puny,
a
bro.
5.
What's up?
I think I bench out of like a 5.
You bench at a 5. Wow.
Yeah.
He's got short little arms.
Yeah, I'm an
Which
11
which combo
on
rack?
average.
Texas.
Okay, I'm a
TSS?
6.
Yeah,
I'm
10,
on a
11.
6. I'm on a 6, but I'm also like a little all tucked in, all wide grip, everything. So, yeah, it's the
Yeah,
bench
dude.
presser. Like,
Again,
You guys are built the same pretty much. Look at you guys.
Hey, listen, take it in.
Two little
Take it
mini
in, get
fridges.
fatter.
You know,
Listen-
I'm built for strongman. Here, I'm fucking struggling powerlifting. What am I
Have you
doing?
guys
bro?
ever seen my bench from?
Are you trying to be skinny? Like, dog, like you're about to have a kid. You've made it. You can be fat now. It's okay.
Dude, I keep losing weight. It's crazy. That fucking stupid macro factor algorithm's killing me.
And meanwhile, I'm struggling to eat what I need to eat.
Well, it's crazy because every time I get back into tracking macros, I'm like, I just go, like the first couple days, I track what I've been eating normally. I'm never like, oh, I'm going to completely overhaul my diet. I'll just, let me track what I've been eating, regularly, and then I can adjust that based off the numbers, right? And I always recognize that, like, my diet is absolute shit. So then I do a complete overhaul, and then all of a sudden, just pounds start shedding because I'm eating enough fiber. I'm like, yeah. So
Finally, not constipated.
finally, right? My stomach's not bothering me. Like, I feel great every day. I'm regular. No, but now I'm like really trying to dial my calories in because I keep like adding, I'm like adding 100 or 200 more calories. I'm like still losing weight. I'm like, fuck, my training feels like
fiber.
absolute trash. Yeah, it's all the fiber. No, but I don't even know what the point was with that. But
talking
now
about
everybody heard my
Yeah.
my struggles with the macro factor algorithm.
My code for macro factor is Browling.
Well, I
Honestly,
mean,
I love that app. It's just
Me too.
I think it's honestly it's going off old data that I have on that from like a couple years ago when I was like 245 and now I'm like 230. And I changed some things like because I wasn't doing as much cardio as I was doing then now. And I think it gave me calories that were so fucking wrong. And then I've been trying to adjust them on my own, and it's getting better. But it's like I woke up at 104.6 this morning kilos, which is like 229 or so, 230.
I mean, I was almost 120 in June. Now I'm around 107. So it was, it's funny. It's the first time
I can't believe I'm actually lighter than you right now.
Yeah, but you know what's even crazier? That's the first time I've ever lost weight in my life, by the way. From June till now, it's the first time I've ever lost weight in my life.
You should see the pictures of this kid when he still lived in Greece. Looks like a fucking action figure.
No, that was actually when I was going to Mount Vernon barbell. Those photos.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
You were,
Oh, okay.
bro's ripped.
But
Hanging out with Kevin Oak.
Yeah, no.
Oh, Kevin Oak. Oh, Lord. Yeah.
Bro, I remember, listen, like, I've been around for a while. I've only competed 2017, but, like, I've been paying attention since, like, 2012. I remember all of a sudden he started, like, giving out stock, like, advice, and I was like,
Yep.
Yeah.
like, dog, like, what's your training? Like, I don't care about
Well, no,
this.
but like, so I got a chance so I went to Mount Vernon Barbell from LA Fitness because of Kevin Oak and Larry Wheels, because they were there, right? I was like,
yeah,
I want to be
great.
strong. You know, these fucking peasants over here, LA Fitness, they're not on my level and whatnot. I'm sick and tired of hearing fucking steroids allegations, my fucking twink ass build. You know, let me go over here and fucking work with the champions. Like, and so I fucking, I meet Kevin Oak, I'm like, hey, just want to see a great inspiration, shake my hand, shake his hand. He goes, like fucking, like, you know, some caveman gut, like, you know, guttural fucking, like, in response. And that was pretty much it, right? Get a chance to see his, like, workout routines. I'm like, all right, let me see if I can glean something off of this over here. None of it made sense. Dude would show up and fucking foam roll and fucking stretch for like an hour and a half each fucking day before sessions and just
and
walk
squat
away.
in his Timbs.
Yeah, like and just
fuck
like
is
walk
going on?
off like looking like all like pissed off in his session, like, you know, like fucking like he was upset. I'm like, what the fuck? And one day he'd show up and he'd be like doing like, you know, like vertical jumps, like slapping the wall and then going into squats, like weird random shit that made no fucking sense. You know, and it was just fucking bizarre. And then Larry Wheels, just fucking Larry Wheels, just going in there like fucking like AMRAPing everything's like fucking like Max, fucking
Yeah, beating
deadlifting
his
and blood
girlfriend.
pouring out of his fucking head, like legit, like coming out of his scalp down onto the fucking board. I was there, I saw that shit in person.
Yuli was like, okay, I need something in the middle here. Not LA Fitness, but this might be a little too much. Yeah, somewhere in the middle.
No, I loved it. I love the energy. I tried doing the same shit. I remember my first one of my first bench sessions over there. I'm like, I'm gonna bench with a thick bar. It was a fucking squat bar.
I'm hardcore.
Everyone's like, look at this idiot.
You know, the owners are looking at me like I'm a fucking, you know, like a
Dude, I've seen people bench with the deadlift bar. The fucking thing, the plates are just like whipping.
Dude, I've seen
I did
people
that as
squat-
well.
What are you
I've seen
doing,
people-
guy?
I've seen people squat with it, and
Oh, yeah,
nobody
same.
was like, Jesus, like.
Buddy, the
okay,
thing doesn't
it's-
even have center knurling. What are you doing?
It hurts my neck.
It's an ollie bar, bro. It's a rogue ollie bar.
Yeah, but no, I remember like, you know, seeing Kevin Oak there and these guys and shit like that. Just it was interesting. And then he went over to Iron Vault when they first opened up and shit. They like legit they bribed him to lift there. Like they gave him like his own little bar. Like I remember approaching the gym, checking out and shit like that, and you see like a squat bar on the rack and like a little like Manila tag at the end of it. And you're like, what the fuck is this? And you read it, it says, oh, Kevin Oak. I'm like, oh shit, it's like fucking $1,200 bar. And they just fucking bought it for him. All right. He gets up, he leaves, goes to GDI, that kind of shit. But like getting into the recent controversy which took place and whatnot, the whole Kenny Allen versus like, you know, Craig Lemieux situation. I don't know if you're aware of that. Like, you know, like Kenny Allen actually mentioned me, like according to Craig in one of his court documents, when he came up with a cease and desist against Craig. He dropped my name, said that he was giving misinformation, this, that, and the other thing about his situation, and I was spreading word, and I had literally spoken to nobody about it. My only input in the situation was telling Craig to do things as rationally, as professionally as possible, because any poor misstep would be a bad reflection on him, and he took that and he actually ran with it, did the right thing. But looking into this thing, the safe sport like accusations that Kenny Allen raised against Craig Lemieux, saying that in other words that he was inappropriate towards one of his lifters, and this, that, and the other thing, and this person was his girlfriend. And he
Right.
launched a safe sport investigation after, okay, which is bad enough on its own, right? But the safe sport investigator told him who the person reporting it was. There goes the anonymity.
Right.
I mean, the safe sport investigator in question has botched. So investigation after investigation, he's an absolute joke.
Bro, it's insane. Like, how the
Yeah.
fuck does that
And
happen, bro?
I'm not sure that is reflective of safe sport as a whole. I don't
No.
know how well they do in other areas of sport,
I
but
did
I
some
know
research.
that the particular investigator that works within USAPL he's terrible.
So I've did some like research into this and safe sport all across the board. Many, I'm not gonna say all across the board, but in many different aspects and many different sports, drops the fucking ball. It's a litany of fucking like inaction. You like how CPS basically have these stories of kids like, you know, going through abuse, whatever, and then you
Yeah.
find a week or two later they get like, you know, like murdered by the parents and whatnot. The equivalent of that in safe sport. You know, they just don't give two shits. You know, the less they can do, the better. Less paperwork, less fucking. Who the fuck knows, man?
Yeah.
You know, we had there's a one lifter who we spoke to recently at nationals and before, and then afterwards, and whatnot. You know, opened up her story about safe sport and the shit she experienced with her abusive ex-boyfriend, whatever, and they did nothing. You know, like you think there'd be some measure there saying that those, all right, if there's a protective order being placed against this individual, maybe we can take some steps over here to basically institute a separation of both of them. Powerlifting is not that serious that this person has to be lifting right now if this legal framework
Right.
exists to
right.
fucking, you know.
It gives very 1950s, you know. It's
Well,
like,
people-
oh, she's just hysterical. Like, give her some more drugs,
People
and,
play
and,
favorites
and you're
like that.
fine, you know.
Like it's something like I can't say I've directly experienced it in this way, but it does seem like the people who actually survive like the incidences themselves are the ones being outcasted in a way that's
Yes.
significantly interesting because like I've opened up about this before. Like I suffered childhood sexual abuse, and like granted like situations resolved, like I've managed to get through that with therapy, and like it never came to this like safe sport level of situation. But like there is this real feeling of like shame and guilt that sits with you for a long time where you feel like you can't open up about it, and the minute you do, especially in the sport of powerlifting, which is sadly has too many like people with voices that are of this like
Dipshits. We call
macho
them
man
dipshits.
dipshit like
Yeah.
oh well, why didn't they say something sooner, but that also bleeds into how you handle the situation because it's like, well, we have to treat everyone fairly, and it's like, well, fairness though is on a spectrum. Me telling someone, hey, like you're gonna lift in a different session while we investigate this is not unfair. That's just simply moving you to a different timeline so that I don't have the two of you cross paths.
Yep.
But again, like we don't do that because people play favorites, especially in powerlifting, where it's absolutely insane. Like I have so many just different like random internet beefs where I can look back and be like, I was 100% right. Like I made fun of people for like getting popped on drug tests, and then like they're posting me on their story being like, look at this fat 19-year-old who's weak as hell, and I'm like, yeah, I'm fat and drunk right now, but like you cheat. Like, that's different, you know what I mean? But like it's stuff like that. It's the same thing with like a Noriega just being a disgusting human being as well, and people are like, but he benches good, and it's like, yeah, I mean, I guess I'm cool with that, like if you want to say that, but like that doesn't determine how I feel about people.
Listen,
and even
listen.
that ties back to
He's
background
into
treatment.
Christianity. The guy's engaged, all right? We
Oh
forget
my
about
God,
everything
yeah.
he did in the past and whatnot. None of that matters at all. Because he, you know,
God forgives.
That's it. God forgives.
That's the conversation I had with Mark the other day about like, you know, as a former addict, like why I actually still consider myself an alcoholic just so I never touch it. Like that's the framework I have to adopt. For me personally, I'm not saying for anyone else, but like I made the joke to Mark. I was like, well, damn, if I knew that, like I wouldn't have gone to AA because I had to apologize to everyone I did wrong. Like if I just had to piece it up with God in my head, like I would have just done that instead. You know what I mean? Like, and that's the insane thing. Like, it's not that I don't think people don't have redemptive qualities. In fact, that's what pisses me off all the time about like people. It's like I have this high expectation and this high hope for them, but then it's like you actually have to show some willingness to be redeemed. And I don't mean it spiritually. I mean like you have to eat shit. You have to eat the
Yes.
shit you made.
Redemption also entails accountability. If there's no
Right.
accountability, there's no redemption. And people fucking forget this. Again, we have to understand that the vast majority of people who are in powerlifting right now, who are nori suckers and shit like that, are people with very zero referential experience. You know, the
Yeah.
people basically who, for the most part, many of these people are like silver spoon kids. There is no fucking accountability in their lives. It's mom and dad fucking taking care of them, fucking like, you know, like fucking coddling to them, you know, coddling them, you know,
Yep.
and this is their experience. So like, you know, for them to understand that like, you know, negative actions need to have repercussions and shit. It's something which is out of their wheelhouse. They
Yeah.
legit don't get it.
No,
so
and then they tag their meat post. Meat didn't go as expected. Yeah, I wonder why.
Wow, who
It's
would
the
have
same
thought?
fucking people.
Yeah, you know?
It's the same. It's a
I know.
circle. That's the
It
Venn
really is.
diagram.
It really is.
100%, man.
So you see shit happening out there. It's unfortunate. It's a sad reality. But you know, we do the best to not like I want to say to maybe hold a better sample, like, you know, for other people, I guess, to refer to is what we're hoping to do. So we had a question.
Oh boy.
That was asked like, you know, for this show by one of the viewers. There were two, but I don't think. So the first question here is, why is Article 14 enforced against some, but not all?
Again, favorites. It's favorites.
It
It's
is.
100% favorites.
It is 100%. So looking at some of the instances here of people being Article 14. Now we can talk about Rondell Hunt. We can talk about Sean Koch. Who else are we thinking about? Like Train True, out in which we call South Korea. In these 3 instances, we have a whole lot of bullshit taking place. So let's take a look at Rondell Hunt, which is the first one that comes to mind. So in 2018, 2019, Trinidad and Tobago go through a process of basically voting out their executive committee, right? In the IPF affiliate. And these assholes decide to not leave the office. They decide to maintain their position. So now what takes place is these guys say, all right, fuck it. If they're going to do that, I guess we'll start a legitimate federation and move on. So they, they then basically send out a letter to IPF, inform them what took place and so on and so forth. IPF doesn't give 2 shits. And so what happens, these guys get wind of it, the old federation, the old guards, and they fucking Article 14 him. And these guys of the new federation, with all the evidence that they have, like Rondell Hunt also saying it, getting on board as well, send the information over these guys, all the evidence, and IPF doesn't give 2 shits. His Article 14 continues. He re-signs up for for IPF after spending years off. I want to see maybe 2022, 2023, before the Corrupted Classic 1, and basically negotiates with them. IPF says, yeah, if you come in and whatnot, things will be okay. So he re-enlists and receives a fucking 17-month suspension. A second one in a row because he competed at nationals, the year before, something like that.
I think it was because he joined that corrupted summit or whatever it was.
Yes, because he's at the summit. I'm sorry. Yes, because he's at the summit. Like dealing with the situation Train True, you had the person who's the IPF leader of South Korea, who's basically like a lecherous old man, right? And he's basically like a fucking like there's actually like sexual abuse, like instances, that kind of stuff. I guess like some of the people who he's massaged, because he also does massage therapy thing, massage certificates, and so these guys from Train True actually send this evidence over to the IPF, and they don't give 2 shits. They talk about they want nothing to do with this, and so on and so forth, and that federation continues to exist. And so these guys say, "Fuck it, I guess we're gonna be rocking with USAPL." Article 14. Sean Koch, he's basically a phenomenal lifter. He's based out I think something Germany or something, like one of the
Switzerland.
Switzerland, right?
Yeah.
But he's living in the U.S. and now he's also, I guess, attending a college where he's getting a powerlifting scholarship from them. And so the team competes on the USAPL umbrella. So to maintain his scholarship, he needs to compete with the USAPL. But at the same time, though, he's a very good IPF lifter. So he goes ahead and he competes, I think, at nationals or something like that and whatnot. I forget exactly which competition. Say it again?
CNETs.
CNETs. It's CNETs and gets Article 14. Meanwhile, we have other people like Taylor Atwood and Gavin Adden showing up to fucking the Olympia, if memory serves correctly, a couple of years back. They're through it, blah, blah. They're participating in some of the events, and no Article 14, nothing in nature, like a fucking blind eye's turn in the direction. And I had a conversation with one of those individuals, right? With Taylor, in fact, talking about this, and he just couldn't grasp the fact that that it was not Rondell's fault or these other individuals' fault that they got an Article 14. And that's what happens when you're coddled. That's what happens basically. It's like when you're shown the favoritism, you can't empathize with those individuals. And so this is what happens with many people in powerlifting. They don't understand the fact that basically this is actually wrongdoing over here. They shouldn't be supported because the shit that takes place with Article 14. They just say, go ahead.
What's the logic of Article 14? Sorry, not to cut you off. Is it just like, hey, we don't want you competing in other feds because you may not, you may pass the easy drug test or whatever? Is that what it is?
So if it was drug testing or whatnot, there would be actual drug tests.
They ultimately want you just to be loyal to them as an athlete.
They want to destroy the other federations. So what happens basically is by having Article 14 existing, right? It's either you get ready for IPF Worlds, if you're somebody in contention to be one of the best lifters, which is what all the best lifters want to do, because you want to compete where the best lifters are at, or you can't do this, but you're stuck over here, like basically now, which is what USAPL has become, like the junior league of powerlifting. Honestly, and I hate to see it.
Yeah. But no, that's funny though. That's a good way to put it.
But legitimately, that's what we're seeing right now. We see people basically defecting, like the top 1 to 2% of powerlifting is going over to Powerlifting America and to the IPF and so on and so forth. And it's reflected also in looking at Powerlifting America's nationals when they have maybe I don't know, 100 people signing up versus USAPL having thousands of people signing up and shit like that. The signups, they run out of vacancies. I don't know, man. It's a wild thing. So Article 14, frankly, shouldn't exist. Why these take place and so on and so forth is not anything professional. It has 100% to do with just basically favoritism, because you see the exceptions. You see the people basically having a blind eye turn towards them, and others not having that happen.
Yeah, and it's crazy because this sport is not that serious. I tell that to some of my online clients all the time. They'll get real bummed out about a bad training session. I'm like, it's not that serious. We do this for fun, right? And people get so up in arms about this, oh, he competed in a different fed, I hate him now. What are we talking about? Like straight nerd behavior. Like I'm glad you peaked in high school, but some of us just want to train.
Yeah,
I
no,
mean,
it's ridiculous.
It's just that like that's what it seems like. You can't sit with us. Like that's the rule. Like all right, man.
That's basically what it comes down to.
That's basically
100%.
what it is.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It's so silly.
You know,
People just
it's,
clutching on to the little bit of power they
But-
have instead of helping out other people.
yeah, but also holds the sport back though. When you do things
Yeah.
like this and whatnot, you disrupt the sport. You make it, I guess, like more inaccessible to people, and you make it rougher for people, I guess, like to go from meet to meet. Because now you
Yeah.
go to Powerlifting America, they have less meets. The infrastructure is not built up for Powerlifting America.
When it's
So-
so expensive now too. Like I remember when like you used to sign up, it was like $50 for a membership and then like 75 for a meet. Now you're paying like $250.
Well, honestly,
It's nuts.
I get the rationale behind it. I get like meat expenses going up as well. It's 20
For sure.
You know,
For sure,
know,
but I
like-
just going to the accessibility aspect, like it's insane to me that federations don't put together more novice level meets.
Yeah. I mean, we look at Powerlifting America. They're having a hard time. They were having a hard time getting meets. Period.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
when they're having issues at the last nationals that they had, and I've spoken about this in maybe 2-3 podcast episodes, is when they're having fucking checks bouncing when they're supposed to be paying people in the venues and so on and so forth.
That's
There's
not a
some-
good look.
It's not a good look.
That's not a good
You know,
look at all.
you can have the top talent you want to, but your infrastructure is lacking, my guy.
Gotta have that bread.
You know, I don't know. Just it's issues like this and whatnot. So Article
Oh,
14, why it's enforced, why it's not. Frankly, just it's all bullshit. You know, so
Yeah.
there's no legit reason why it's taking place. Also, speaking about that whole situation about like Rondell Hunt having competed at or been a part of the Corrupted Classic Summit and so on and so forth, right? So in other words, he wasn't even competing; he was just talking. We're looking at Ray Williams, if I remember serves correctly. The year before had actually competed at USAPL meet, and then decides to go back to IPF. No issues, no Article 14, nothing of the nature. The same context, right?
Yep. Meanwhile, just my powerlifting conspiracy theory: when Kelly Branton got popped, convenently a month later,
That was
Ray had his
hilarious.
worst performance in years.
Oh man,
Conveniently, just interesting timing. That's all I'm saying, big dog. That oh my
Yeah.
God, I hate the
All right.
sport so much.
it is.
You know, people ask me all the time. They're like, or just comment all the time on how like the worst people you know are involved in powerlifting.
Facts.
And it's true, but I just can't imagine that there aren't similar archetypes in
Every
strongman and weightlifting and
Oh, 100%.
CrossFit.
Vivek Ramaswamy. Vivek Ramaswamy. I've got a story about
Does
Vivek.
he
You guys want to hear
powerlift?
this? No. Listen to this. You want to
Yeah.
talk about in other sports?
Before
I
we
know,
keep
I'm kidding.
going, before we keep going, I really have. I told you I have to.
I know.
Okay,
he
you're
did
good.
say
If you want to head out,
4:30.
you're good. You're good. We'll carry on without you, brother. I guess you cut off.
Sure.
No, there he is.
Tell you, you're
My
good. If you want to head out,
computer
you're
wants
good.
to go to, but yeah, because I have to. I got.
Okay,
Right.
by all means.
Okay,
do
we
that.
love you.
Too.
You good?
Good.
See you, bud.
Peace.
Great meeting you, Gabe.
Nice to meet you, bud.
All right, I'll see you guys sometime soon.
Okay.
All right, sorry about that. I
No, it's
didn't
fine.
expect to take. Usually we finish within like 45 minutes, but this time we've been yapping a lot.
That's good. This
But in
is,
a good
me.
way.
It's
in a
me.
good
It's
way.
100%.
No, it's been really good. It's been probably like one of our best
yeah,
episodes.
it really is.
Sir
Best I
Yap a
can-
lot.
Mateo,
Best
see you around,
I
brother.
can confirm. Peace, guys.
Peace. Take care.
See you, bud.
So, Vivek Ramaswamy. I have a Vivek Ramaswamy story over here. Talk about like the worst
Ray, you
people.
got stories, man.
The shitty one of the shittiest people, I guess, who are outside of fucking powerlifting. So, one of the people I coach, he's a big like tennis guy, whatnot, like cross country, like all star, that kind of shit. And his friend is now a tennis coach, and he's at Chelsea Piers, and he's coaching people, so on and so forth. And who should walk onto the tennis court but Vivek Ramaswamy? This is before he's Vivek Ramaswamy. He's just
Right.
Vivek, He has his a couple of security guards around him, that kind of shit. And so he approaches him because I would like you to coach me, blah blah blah. And so he goes, yeah, sure. And they start the whole fucking thing. And he takes him out for the first one of them say coaching lessons, and he's like showing him how to play and that kind of stuff. And he says, all right, I want to play a match against you. And he goes, there's no sense in playing against me because I'll beat you. And he goes, like, well, let's get it going so I can get an understanding what's going on here. So he starts playing, and obviously Vivek gets his ass, could get his ass handed to him. This guy's basically playing with kitty gloves. And Vivek says to him, listen, if you're coaching me and whatnot, the very least you could do is let me win a match. You know what I mean? Just maybe let me win a match, because if I'm paying you this money and
Fuck
whatnot,
outta here.
let me win this match. And the guy does. He lets him win the match, right? He gives it to him. And the thing finishes up, and he's like, all right, so we're set. So there's the payment. He's like, oh, you expect me to pay you for coaching over here? If I'm brand new to the sport and I'm beating you in tennis and whatnot, how the fuck am I supposed to pay you?
Get the fuck out of
This
here.
happened.
Bro, I'd punch you
This
square in
happened.
your face.
And this motherfucker now runs DOGE. So he actually had to go after him, like repeatedly to get his fucking money, to get his payment. This is the kind of douchebag, and he's a fucking billionaire. A fucking billionaire, bro.
That's crazy.
Dog, you ain't got that $1 billion on you right now. You can get beat up.
Bro, but
Run me my check.
so like it's not just a powerlifting exclusive phenomenon.
Yeah.
What happens basically?
Average billionaire behavior.
Yeah. Well, they're people, right?
Yes,
They're
yeah,
people. Like I've said that to
Not
some
really.
of the younger kids I work. Well, yeah. On that comment, yes.
Lizards.
But like the kids that I have that are like actually compete in powerlifting, like 2 or 3, like I always tell them, like, listen, don't be fooled by this. Like these are people, and everything you know about people is truth. They can be good, they can be bad, they can be deceitful. Like, do not treat these people like any differently than you would a stranger, because that's all they are to you.
Bingo.
And you have to feel them out. Like, you give them respect and everything else, but like you got to figure out where they stand. Like Elliot Sykes, I'm sure you've heard of him.
Yeah.
I met him through Discord, and I remember when he was coach shopping around before he went to RTS, he was talking to me for a little bit, and I was like, yeah, man, like, I'd love to coach you, whatever, blah, 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 but like, do your research, right? And so him and his dad decided on RTS, and that's been fantastic for them. Adam Jones has done a phenomenal job with them. And then, like, Elliot's obviously blown up to the point where he's getting in touch with a lot more of these top-level people. And I pulled him aside one time, and I was like, hey, like, just so you know, you are getting to the point where you are going to be someone people want to get close to. You have to understand that some of those people care about you and some don't. And you need to trust your gut on some of those things, right? And, you know, he's like, oh, well, you know, we'll see. Everyone's been so nice so far. And then when he goes and does IPF Junior Worlds, when he's like, I think it's after his deadlift or his squat, I can't remember, he points at the camera and he's like, I told you I'd do it. He was referring to 2 people in particular. I won't say, because he asked me not to, you know, I'm not going to divulge that publicly. But like 2 people who we might otherwise look at and be like, oh, they're nice people. But they were basically like, oh, that kid's not going to do anything. He's never had to compete internationally. Oh, you know, he won't be able to, like, even come close to that total. Like, all this other crazy shit. And it's like, yeah, like, these people are just terrible. Like, just remember, like, that's a person who you looked up to, and that's how they talk about you. Don't be like that, you know? And it's just so sad that there's so many people in powerlifting like that.
Yeah.
Sure,
No,
I mean,
for sure.
again, they exist in every sport. You see that buddy fucking like
Yeah.
happening everywhere. You know, like fucking, I remember, like, you know, like I was in Taekwondo and whatnot, people, like, you know, fucking talking shit about, like, different people and so on and so forth. Fucking football, it happens, basketball, you know, it happens in every sport. I think what also happens is basically this is our network. This is, like, basically what we focus on. It's our passion. So what happens, basically, we're so fixated on this. This is all that should be here
Yeah.
about. You know, like there's other shit taking place in Hollywood, other fucking facets of our lives and so on and so forth. We don't pay attention to that because we're so fixated on this over here. You know, because this is something which consumes the vast majority of people who are engaged in the sport. You know, and it happens in every sport. You know, like that's basically what they know. If you talk to somebody in tennis, they say, tennis is toxic. You know, because this happens over here. Everybody's corrupt. Everybody's on a take. And listening to these people who are in tennis, you know, who I know through my clients and so on and so forth, you say, holy shit, you know, there's a lot going on over there. And you think to yourself, like, you know, there's petty shit happening over here and whatnot, but it's less, I want to say, established than it is in tennis, which has more money. You
Yeah,
know?
there's a lot more, like, entrenched institutional structures
Yes.
that prevent any change, yeah. Yeah, I always relate it back to when I was in Iowa, I trained with a guy. His name is Wayne Hams. He's been around. Like, he told me he was a spotter and loader at the 1970s Hawaii record breaker meet when Fred Hatfield did 1,000. Right, so like he's been in the sport for a long time. You look him up on Open Powerlifting. I mean, his it's like, you know, 8 pages long worth of meets. And like the big thing we always talked about, because we talked training obviously, but I was like, how did you go from competing so often at the national level and then not letting it be who you are as a person? Because that's what I worry about. Like, as an addict, like, I know my personality. Like, at some point I'm gonna have to hang up the boots of, like, I'll still compete, but like, how serious do I want to take this? And he was always like, no one's ever going to remember you for the numbers, right? Like, it's always about the experiences you had with the people around you, and the only thing they'll remember is like how you treated them. And like that's just always stuck with me. Like, you go to meets and people are like I have more conversations about things at powerlifting meets that don't pertain to totals and just the people themselves than I do the actual performances.
That's actually a very
like-
good point you bring up because I mean Hatfield, we all know the Hatfield squats, right? You know, but
Yeah.
and I'm somebody who's pretty well versed in powerlifting. I didn't know that he had a 1,000-pound squat. You know, I don't know shit about
Yeah.
him apart from I guess just the squat itself. I don't know his history.
Oh man.
You know,
Kill,
but think about
kill
it.
the non-believer, the heretic.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. But just imagine though, like, you know, we're looking at somebody who's one of those people who had a 1,000.
Dr. Squat, dude.
Yeah, man.
You know, but
Yeah.
but there we go. This is somebody who's well versed. Like I'm a little bit more into this than the vast majority of people in the sport,
Right.
and even I'm not aware of it. You know, like everybody has like their blind spots, and this one happens to be one
You
of
was
them.
like Hatfield squats, like where you hold on to the thing.
Exactly, that's what I'm thinking. That's legit.
Yeah.
You know, that's Hatfield for me. That's where like what kind of bell rings. But now there is that those numbers they come and they go. You know, it's
Yeah.
who you are as a person, the shit you fucking do and whatnot. You know, your character and whatnot, which becomes something which is more transcendental. It's the shit that lasts.
And nobody remembers what load Louis was lifting when he broke his back, right? We just all know he broke his back.
Yeah, and in fairness, at 50, he still squatted like 900, even if it is in gear. That's still, it's insane.
Fair.
It's like a 300-pound squat, right?
Listen, it's my personal theory that man is autistic because I learned.
Personal
I learned-
theory? Have you heard him?
Yeah.
Have you not heard him talk? Theory?
Listen, he's got the obsession with the numbers, right? Just like your grandfather in Trains in the Basement, right? Same thing, right? But he used to walk around like west side of Columbus just feeding like animals. Like, isn't it like just like I'm
Yeah,
gonna go
he's
buy 50
autistic, yeah,
pounds, you know what I
100%.
mean? Like that's like he's just I love the animals, you know.
Well, I mean, the dude was fucking injecting arsenic. For fuck's sake, that was part of his
Dog.
protocol. Do you remember that?
People
He's the one who told Alex Jones the ducks are free.
Fuck. You get shit on West Side, but like there's just so much that came out of it that like we wouldn't have now. You know, like
I mean, they pioneered a lot in powerlifting.
yeah, and like you, I know you know that. Like we talk about it, but like it's so easy. Like what I appreciate about Mike Toucher, not getting into the previous conversation, that previous topic, is that like he's someone who has at least intellectual honesty to look back at things he's written about like the way he trained taking from Westside and go, maybe I was a little mistaken at the time. Maybe there were things I could change about how I did that. Like he did that with the whole thing with specificity. I remember in 2015 when he was like, oh, just high volume barbell work. That's all you really need. And again, I'm being reductionist about what he's saying.
Mm-hmm.
And then like, you know, in 2020, he's on a podcast being like, actually like there's probably a period in your training where that is true, but then once you get on the other side, you do need to diversify your means a little bit more to avoid some of that just beat up shit you get from being really strong and old.
Mm-hmm.
And then like he's come back around on bands a little bit and said, you know, maybe I wouldn't use them, but I can see an application that's different maybe than I would give them credit for. And I think like the people who were drinking the Kool-Aid of either camp back then are not in the sport anymore. Right? Like they're just not there. And so like it's funny because like you're saying like, oh, I didn't know that was Fred Hatfield, and I'm sitting around like, how'd you not know that? And it's because out of like the people I remember being around in the early 20 teens, is like I'm one of the few that I look at and still see as here. And I'm not even that good. So I'm not saying like, oh, I'm here on a big level, right? But like in the sense of like a keeper of time and history as not a direct participant, but an observer of events as they happen. And
Yeah,
like,
that's fair.
so
I
that's
think
why
what
say
helped. I
more.
think what helped me, like when I first got into the sport and really got into training, is I was surrounded by people who were really into the history of the sport, and they were really into sports science at the same time. So
Yeah.
like that kind of sparked my interest in both of those things, and that's why I have the understanding that I have now. Like I know who Fred Hatfield is, and I know who, you know, I know the whole West Side story, and I, you know,
Yeah.
yeah.
Dog, I'm not gonna lie, you're about to get really mad at me. I watch West Side vs. the World every time I compete.
He
Oh, that's
fucking
fine. I think I
fucking nerd.
I get so jacked up. I don't know what it is, and I think maybe. It's
Well,
'cause
I watch
met-
Bryce Krawcheck's The Power Lifter.
Hey, fair enough. If you like that one, you know, like
No, they're both great documentaries. To be
yeah,
honest.
and like for me, I met Louis.
There's also very few powerlifting documentaries. That
Doug, you know
exist
which one I
anyways. So like,
I'm gonna be honest. People are gonna get mad at this. The Kurt Kowalski thing, where he talks about how he threw people out of the room, like. Dog, fuck you. Like, people walk around with Glocks now. Like, try that today. like, come on, big man. Like, that's just shitty behavior.
It is.
Like, it's one thing if it's legitimately reserved, and I've told you, like, hey, that's my equipment. Like, I'm gonna need that in like 30 minutes. I'll let you finish up, whatever. But like, I'm like, if you watch that and you're like, yeah, Kurt Kowalski was cool, man. I'm like, bro, leave me. Don't train near me. I'm not trying to be around you, dog. That's just.
Now,
wild.
you know who was cool? Mike Vallely. Okay, he was cool.
Actually, Mike, yeah, dude, getting in skateboard fights, throwing skateboards and shit around. Yeah, I love Mike V.
That the like infamous video where he like beats up 5 dudes.
Yeah, like
I saw that. That was actually pretty cool.
He starts swinging
that
on
bring
people.
that part of powerlifting back.
Yeah, exactly.
I would.
Where
be
the
all-
underdog is like getting
One of the
checked
few
by multiple.
one of the few powerlifters who could actually fight. Apparently. You
Who?
know, like Mike Vallely.
Mike Vallely wasn't a powerlifter.
I'm so upset.
Mike Vallely he's a skateboarder.
No,
Yeah, he's a
okay. So I saw the video. I thought maybe you're saying like.
Oh no! I
thought this
totally
was-
brought that up. It's totally unrelated.
Yeah,
to
totally.
powerlifting.
I'm thinking it's tying in. I'm like, all right, this is another fucking
You're like,
Hatfield
oh, is this
moment right
another
here.
guy?
Some shit that I don't know about. Like, okay, you know, but like
I
he
just
threw
think-
hands.
So like, I'm a big fan. You ever played Super Smash Brothers Melee?
Yeah. I
I
saw
have
that.
one. I have a Falco tattoo on my leg.
Nerds.
Facts. But they have this thing called a money match, right? Or a salty sweet. Basically, like, you've been running your mouth. Like, I'm gonna see you at the tournament. We're gonna play. I think we should do that with powerlifting, but you got to fight because you can't be this alpha male dude running your mouth on Instagram, and then the way to solve that is squatting. No, we got to throw hands. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Like, I would love that. I would get beat up so much. Like, my buddy Andres, if he ever listens to this episode, is gonna like listen to it and be like, "You're exactly the guy who's gonna get his shit kicked in." And I'll be like, "Yeah, but I'm gonna own that." Like, I'll be like, "Yeah, I did say that. Yeah, I did get beat up. I stand by it."
You see, I had that. I had that take place. There was somebody who was shit talking, which we call White Toe, some time ago, right? And I happened to run into him at one of the gyms I train at, and he was trying to stretch his arm out to like shake hands and that kind of shit. I'm like, no, we're not shaking hands, my guy.
Yeah, oh, good.
Let's fucking talk about this. Let's see what the fuck happened over here. And he's like denying and talking shit. And I'm like, okay, let's go out in the fucking street. Let's go out in the fucking street. First time, second time.
This man is truly
third time.
Albanian.
3 fucking times, he said, no, I'm not about that, Mike. You're damn right you're not about that shit. Grab your fucking little pussy and get the fuck out of the goddamn gym. That was my response to him.
Yeah, I think.
And two very very big lifters happened to be nearby to watch the entire thing take place and shit like that. They were shitting bricks. The people in powerlifting will talk shit, like, legit. And I'm not for violence with it, but if you come at me with some certain kind of disrespect and shit like that, if you're gonna talk like a man, you want to talk like a man, let's walk like a man. Let's take
These
those
people
actions,
aren't
shall we?
real. It's like rappers. Like, they're not committing the crimes they took. Well, some of them are, actually, to be fair with you. Free Thugga for real. But nonetheless, like, it's 100% like that. Like, you get these like internet beefs. Like, how do you have when Ori and Noriega were throwing shade at each other for so long? How are you both coached by the same guy?
Right.
It's either not real or y'all are soft. I'm sorry.
They're soft. They're both soft as baby shit.
I mean, everybody in powerlifting is soft as baby shit.
I'm soft, so I can say this. I smell it. You know what I mean? I'll walk around people and be like, "You're like me." I know it. I feel it. It's just, you know what geeks me is like when the jury calls got first introduced into like WRPF, PLU, and all that, whatever the hell fed it is now, was like people were like, "Oh yes, this is great," and like Joe Sullivan's always been on his kick about lift integrity, and then the minute it happened to him at a meet, it was like, "I don't know if this is great because now it ruins it for people who spent all this time like prepping for a meet," and it's like that's true. I fundamentally understand that. Like, it is a hobby. I agree with you, but you can't have it both ways. You can't harass Nick Forte with Garrett Fear for like a year because he squats high, and then when it happens to you that someone has a chance to overthrow it via the rules, be like, well, maybe we shouldn't.
Well,
have
we're
this
talking
rule.
about Joe Sullivan over here, who fucking took some small time lifter out of fucking out of Las Vegas, who fucking whose hamstring tore mid squat. Dude collapses. And the dude makes his write up. He talks about it happens, apologizes to the person who got injured, trying to catch the weight, like legit, tore his finger off and that kind of shit. And in the comments section is Joe Sullivan shit talking this guy about how he fucking dumped the load and that kind of stuff. He should always go down with the fucking squat bar. It's still there to this day.
Yeah.
You can go to the fucking video. A couple months ago, one of his lifter gets some bullshit injury, nothing anywhere near as severe as this, drops the fucking load, and who's in his fucking stories defending the action? Joe
Yeah,
the Hypocrite
obviously.
Sullivan.
Doug, I get that you
Horrible.
gotta ride for people, but like if it was me and I'm riding for the homie and I'm definitely being like hypocritical, I'm just be like, yeah, I'm being hypocritical, but
Yes.
this is my
None
guy.
of that happened.
And
Yeah,
I think, yeah,
that's fair.
I think that's my issue with it. Is like I'm fine with you being hypocritical, but you have to admit it.
Yep. Yeah.
fair.
Just keep it a buck. 100%. Garrett Fear has like a whole bunch of issues, so personality wise and that kind of shit, but he's not a hypocrite. Dude keeps.
Oh
it a
yeah,
buck.
no, he
You know
owns
what
it.
I mean?
He admittedly
owns
owns it.
Yeah, so who can I be for that? But if you're gonna pretend like have this fucking like this is how things should be, this is 100%. If you do anything opposite of this, there's something wrong with you as a human being. And then when the convenience is, you know what? This is actually how it should be right now, as opposed to this, that, and the other thing.
I think it's just so weird because
What a
again, like
milquetoast
I've been
personality.
around since he started, like 2017, right? Like when he first blew up, right? Like
I remember old Joe Sullivan, and I miss old old
yeah,
Joe
like
Sullivan.
it just seems like a very different person from then, and it's just crazy.
So let's talk about like actual real sports now. Like, so you're a real sport coach as opposed to a meme sport coach. Well, in addition to being a meme sport.
Yes,
sport,
yeah.
He is also a meme sport coach.
And meme sport partitioner. Anyways, yeah. So honestly, I don't think the training looks substantially different. I honestly think when I look at sports performance as a whole, there's been this shift of really good information about like, hey, like we don't need to prioritize strength in a way that like the early 2000s did, right? Like at 25, if you're in the NFL, is there going to be a huge impact on your squat going from 650 to 675? Probably not. So the time investment doesn't make sense to continuously stress that aspect of it. Whereas maybe developing the ability to be a tenth of a second faster or have a better processing of information during the game itself, like those sorts of things make sense to prioritize time-wise. But where I think the pendulum has swung too far, especially with my demographic, so you're talking about young kids, like even college, they're still developing, is okay, well, so strength isn't that important at that level, so therefore it's not that important at all levels, and it's like gets to be this weird thing where it's like there's not a too strong, but there certainly is a not strong enough, right?
True.
And so, you'll see this on Joel Seedman's a perfect example of it. Like I'll take the example of Taylor Heineke. He played at ODU, went to the Commanders. That's the name of the team. This was years ago. And then all of a sudden he's popping up in bids with Joel Seedman, right? And people are like, oh, that must be why he's like that level of athlete. And it's like, well, I interned at Old Dominion with the Olympic Sports Performance Department. So I know for a fact, even though I didn't work with football, that's not how they trained. Because I knew who worked over in football. I knew what their programming looked like because I had the chance to actually look it over. And so sports performance is this weird thing where like it's not complicated, but like if you listen to anyone who's trying to sell you something, they will swear it is. Like,
Well,
it's
here's
nuts.
another thing to consider about Joel Seedman that many people aren't aware of. Joel Seedman knows what he's doing. When you see the meme
Oh,
workouts
yeah.
he puts out there, it's 100% at clickbait. What he says and what people have shown as well, who've actually worked with him and spoken about him in the past with him, that's like basically it's like the tippy top of the iceberg.
Right.
The vast majority of shit he does is like the conventional strength training stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
you'd have to because otherwise people would be blowing up left and right. But again, like that goes back to what we were talking about earlier with like rack heights. That requires a level of common sense most people don't have access to for some reason.
True.
And so like the hard sell for me working with the kids that I do is like if a parent comes in and sees me, they're going to be like, who is this bald, like 36 BMI, tatted up white guy who looks like a hobo, right? And like I don't look like a hobo at work. Like I actually look well kempt and groomed, but nonetheless, the instant thought is this is going to be the guy who squats my child to death and doesn't actually train them. And then you look at my programming and like with the tennis club, half of it is probably 30 minutes of it is movement oriented in terms of like we're on the turf, we're running, we're changing direction, we're developing these capacities. But the flip side of that is, yeah, if your child is 10 years old, I'm not going to just drill him into change of direction stuff 24/7. I'm going to spend like 10 minutes working on his squat with like just body weight. We'll do some body weight movements and then we're going to play games because like you gamify the workout in a way that's like meaningful and I can keep track of the progression. So like, okay, maybe the game is in a 4x4 square, and it's, catch the ball. Don't let it go outside of the square. And I can condense the square, or I can expand it, and I can say catch it on one leg, catch it one hand. Like, you kind of bridge and progress and regress that way. But you don't want the workout to be this thing where it feels like training, because a 10-year-old shouldn't train. Like, they need to be developing, but you don't want them to have the same mindset that, like, the three of us would have for our own training. That's not psychologically healthy. So then when you get into things like rowing, it's a very cyclical sport. It's the same movement over and over again. I don't need to really teach you how to change direction. That would be a silly use of time. But there would be sports performance practitioners who are like, oh, you got to learn how to change direction. You got to work on max velocity sprints. And it's like, yes, but probably not for rowing, right?
Yes, but actually no.
Right? And, like, I'm going to be honest, I love rowing, but I don't know that, like, your number one rower would be a better athlete than, say, a basketball player, right? I think there's a certain level of skills that come from playing more dynamic acyclical sports that don't come with cyclical style sports where it's the repetitive same movements. That influences the training as well, though, because if I know that the demands of your sports are, by the very nature of themselves, chaotic, and I cannot reproduce them one-to-one, well, one, that means anything we do in here is going to be general, and that's why I hate the terminology of specific.
Sports specific.
I hate.
I mean, if we're being honest, like, it doesn't really exist.
No, it can't.
I mean, it does. Sports specific is playing the sport.
Yes, yeah. I mean, that's the only time.
Well, we mean like in the weight room, right? Like if you're a football player,
No,
or you're a rower or something, and you're like gonna go train in the weight room.
but Mike Boyle would tell you never lay on your back because that doesn't happen in sports. So,
Well, don't even
but
get
then,
into Mike
but
Boyle
then,
and have a
meanwhile,
conversation.
Mike Boyle will say that. But shot putters, if you look at Anatoly Bondarchuk's research, is that basically improving the bench press has strong correlation to shot put distance up until like elite levels of shot put. So yeah, do your push-ups. That's sports specific.
What I find hold on.
Ground all the
What
time.
I find ironic though about that statement from Boyle is that he doesn't like the bench press, but he will do dead bugs all day.
Yeah, no, it doesn't make sense. Like, I've read his book.
He speaks
it
by
doesn't make
anecdote,
sense.
all kind of like legit. Don't-
Trust me, I know. I just wanted to point out that little.
Bro, I have a lieutenant in my firehouse, right?
Yeah.
And this guy used to be a shot putter. He's the only person who I've worked with in the 10 years I've been a firefighter and whatnot, tested, so drug-free and whatnot, who can bench anywhere near what I do. This
Yeah.
dude's in his 40s. He benches 445.
Dude, that was my favorite group to work with. I mean, like, I love the teams I worked with. I love all the athletes I work with. But in terms of just, like, what I could do with the programming, it was so fun because it's like, let's just be meatheads 3 days a week.
Yeah.
It was so fun for me. I was like, dude, we're going to throw bands and chains on whenever, And, like, if you couldn't bench 225 and you were a guy in the group, I wasn't letting you do bands and chains. You had to figure out how to bench press first. I'm sorry. I'd give you variations and stuff, but that's also because, like, it's kind of, to me, one of these things of, like, Charlie Francis has the high-low model, right? And so, like, you consolidate stressors in such a way that your practice and your hard lift and your hard max velocity stuff, whatever it is all on the same day. So it's a high-stress day. Your low day, maybe you do tempo work, maybe you do very light aerobic work to facilitate, like, recovery and, like, very low-level development. And, like, I don't know that there's any research to suggest that that is a better profile of organizing your week of training, your month of training, et cetera, et cetera. But I do know, having worked with athletes that don't like the weight room and sometimes just want to play their sport, that the sort of psychological separation of stressors in that way, where it's not just this medium just drawl all week long of like, oh my God, I'm getting my butt kicked, it feels way better. Oh, I went really hard, so I'll go easy today. Like, it's the same stress, it's just divided differently throughout the week, but it psychologically seems to be a better profile for, at least in my experience, the athletes I've worked with. I can't validate that by research. I don't have it, but I can suggest to you that that's probably, at least I can think of a logical train of thought that would lend itself that way. And so that mirrors a lot of what I do with the athletes as well. It's like, hey, like, yes, you need to come in 3 times this week. Let's not do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yeah.
I know you have a game Saturday. Let's do Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, like something like that. And then the other thing with that is, like, sports performance coaches also get a habit of thinking they're more important. Big sneeze there, huh?
Yeah.
They're more important than they are, right? Like, if we take West Side terminology to make Mark mad, Max effort is the sport itself. So your game is your max effort. So if you're a sprinter in the pool, that's your max effort. So if we're in a period in which you have 2 meets in a week, I don't need to be doing like high strength work. But again, like there's these camps that exist and like none of them use any thought, and it's just so infuriating to me.
I've seen it, bro. I've seen it. I played football for the fire department for 6 years.
Yes, so you know.
I remember us fucking having practice like Tuesday and Thursday, and then having a game on Saturday. And the fucking practice on Tuesday would be at 100% intensity. And the practice on Thursday would be 100% intensity. And then the game on Friday, where I'd have like 90 plus reps as right guard on the O line and whatnot, would be at 100% intensity.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, I fucking finished off the season, and I'm like fucking limping off the field. Who would have thought that I had fucking 2 torn hip labra?
Yeah. By the way, good luck fighting a fire like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
Bro.
Hey, I had a hard practice.
That's exactly how I want my firefighters showing up, just like,
want
oh
you
my
to be
hip, I can't, I'm fatigued, I can't do it.
Destroying my body, bro. Destroying my body with like fucking Pee Wee League football. Like the shit I did for 6 years, bro. It was a blast.
They call it like youth football now. That stuff's so funny to me. I'm not gonna fault someone because I do this. Like that's what powerlifting is. It's just adult.
I mean, yeah, powerlifting's a recreational sport
Like that's the thing within sports performance. It's like there's people that are smart and they're just not talking a lot because they don't need to.
Yeah.
I'll write a book, I'll write whatever, but like a lot of this stuff, like, all right, I'm gonna poop on someone. Steve Denobi, right? He did that post the other day, like a couple months ago, where he's like, "Oh my RPE and my percentages," and it's like, dog, like that's been being done since 2015.
Oh, I remember that where he discovered.
It's like
him and Marcellus. I remember.
And this is what drives me nuts. Because
I shit talked him right under the post.
It's the same thing with VBT. Mark and I talk about this all the time. It's all the same thing. It's just creating a framework for which you can describe how hard this lift needs to be. Percentages, VBT, RPE, it's the same thing. And so like that's the annoying thing when you get into these discussions within sports performances. Like we're all trying to do the same thing. It's just you think you have the magical serum because you've organized it in this way. And it's like, dog, it doesn't matter. It's the same thing. Like, it doesn't matter if you put it in a blue bowl or a red bowl. We both ended up with pancakes. Like, it doesn't matter.
Gabe, but it does matter. Because what happens now, you have a new term that they're throwing around, right? They're banning about. And people hear, oh, shit. Oh, this is new. This is where it's at right now. And now all of a sudden, after years of these motherfuckers shit talking VBT training, because that entire camp used to shit talk fucking velocity training.
Oh, I know. I know.
All that shit. Now all of a sudden it's cool, interesting. And I saw the person, by the way, who they had on their little like fucking like encyclopedia they call it and shit like that, who was their specialist. And this guy's a fucking nobody out of here in New York and shit like that. The guy doesn't know the first fucking thing about coaching. Max,
no.
I used to coach, used to be worked by him. He dropped him for a reason.
Yeah. No. They're not.
This guy's not well versed in this shit. The guy like literally like fucking like one of the people at the gym that he used to work at because he got kicked out of there apparently and whatnot used to fucking came up with rep 1, and that's where he got his fucking shit from.
Oh
this
yeah, the rep
over
1
here,
guys, yeah.
Mark over here. Mark knows his shit. And I've heard the stuff he talks about and the way he talks about it. Like, and when I ask him questions about VBT, because I have a couple of my lifters on, and I was trying to get myself whatnot, like Carmen and Mateo and Samantha, some of my top lifters. I was like, let's see what happens over here, whatnot. And this man was capable of answering every fucking question I had over here. And when it came down to stuff which I couldn't have access to readily and whatnot, he was able to supply it. And I had a chance to listen to the other individual talk, but I'm like, bro, like, what in the fuck?
Yeah, well, and then like even within VBT, as much as I love it, like I see it in sports performance, like you have 14-year-olds on a Tendo unit. Why? They can't even make
silly.
Like, okay, I'm gonna say your technique needs to be replicable, and he's gonna pull up that one study they did on Olympic weightlifters where each rep had deviations in it where it wasn't perfectly the same, and he's gonna be like, aha, gotcha. So before he does that, I'm gonna cut him off. So
and before.
it has to look like it. I have to be able to see that it's roughly the same thing every single time, and I have to know. Like I joke with the kids, like swim.
No, you're right though. Like it has to be like within within a small window, right? Like the bar can't be all over the place.
Exactly.
And because you're going to get different velocity values every time. Right. You're going to get because it's based off the time and the distance, right? And if it's traveling like a vastly different and then you're seeing like it's deviating horizontally from the vertical path. It's like there's all kinds of things that can influence the rep speed, and if you can't have a somewhat consistent technique that allows for those values to be consistent as well, then yeah, it's kind of
When
pointless.
it gets to that point, you really looking at like it just being poor technique. It's just shitty execution.
Well,
Yeah.
and then,
not focusing.
and then it's shitty coaching too, because like you shouldn't be.
And
like,
also, if your technique is shitty and then you're just being told to move the rep as fast as possible, like
yeah,
that's just going to
it's gonna keep getting
reinforce
worse,
it's just going to keep getting
And
worse.
that happens to be the vast majority of football coaches. For
yes, and so like what we do, like my boss and I, like we've constructed basically like, all right, if you can't goblet squat and then you can't zombie squat, like I'm not trusting you to back squat. And like I know, like
I hate that.
I know, but like let's just hear me out, right?
I'm listening. I want to hear them out.
In the context of powerlifting, don't care. You're gonna have to learn how to back squat, 100%. But in the context of like a 12, 13-year-old who's never been in the weight room, it doesn't matter what implement I give you. I just need your legs to get stronger, and I need you to develop the squat pattern. So to
That
me,
I agree with, absolutely.
So to me, I'm going to start you with the easiest thing that you can't mess up. But the secondary component of that too is you're going to understand that certain things in the weight room are privileges, not rights. So that when you look over and you see, one of the swimmers who's going to go D1 doing VBT stuff and making it look cool, that there's a progression plan there if you listen, but also you have to earn that right. And at any point in time, I reserve the right to take that from you. Right. And so I'm not one of these people who's like John Rusin or whatever, who's like, well, if you can't goblet squat for 20 reps with a 100-pound dumbbell, you can't back squat. No, but I don't need you to back
earn
squat.
the right
You know what I
to
mean?
back squat.
Like in the NFL, a lot of teams only split squat or only trap bar or just find a different way of like doing some sort of squat.
I mean, I like as
without
a
loading
say a
the
field
back.
sport athlete, for example, like I don't think you ever need to back squat.
No, exactly. And so that's why I have
You
that
don't
mentality.
need to. Like it would
Yes.
probably benefit you as an athlete to
learn
learn
it,
how to
to
do
learn
it
it,
well
yes.
and train. It's like you mentioned about like taking your squat from 650 to 675. Like that's not going to make you a better field sport athlete. But like let's say your max is 650, if you could do like, 3 sets of 3 to start your fucking training with like 500 pounds, like you're probably a savage.
Yeah. No.
Like on the field. You know what I mean? Like
Fundamentally, you want to drive hypertrophy, I guess, with the person's tissues, which are active during the course of the lift. You're basically, developing the shock absorbers that they have to sustain hits and movement and, like repetition of activity. If you haven't got much muscle there, it's ligaments and tendons taking the beating, and they do not recover.
I really like what you said there about shock absorption, because I actually train at a different gym than I work at, and a lot of that's just for my own mental clarity. Like I have a hard time like stepping into the building and not being like I'm at work now, even when I train. Like I trained there this Saturday to save time, and I was like, there's something out over there, I must clean it. And like I'm in the middle of trying to get my tempo work done, right? It's crazy. But there's another guy who trains there who's a strength coach at the local college, and like we talk all the time in the morning. We talk, and like the thing that he said to me that I really thought was pertinent looking out at the landscape of sports performance was people are obsessed with outputs and like not considering the frame that's giving the outputs, right? So like, okay, I'm going to upgrade the V6, put it into a V8, right? But then like, okay, what is the chassis from which this is operating? Like, am I just spamming like all these high output things without consideration of how this lines up in a training period with consideration to their sport, with the conditioning aspects? Like, I think a lot of coaches are like, okay, well, if your vertical jump went up, that's good. And it's like, but does your vertical jump have to go up every single week of the year? No, and it can't. But that's a very specific example where everyone would say, yeah, that's silly. But when you're super obsessed with the number, whether that's power or wattage or vertical jump or power clean number or a 10-yard dash or 5-10-5 drill, I don't see how the pursuit of that being obsessive is any different than a squat max.
then
It's not.
What takes place, and you're right. I mean, honestly, you have to look at things from the perspective of of the whole picture. Things have to be holistic, particularly in sports and whatnot. Like if you're dealing with 3D sports, the chaos sports, like football and shit like that, you focus on the one metric and whatnot. Sure, there's progress there. And I think that's what it comes down to, is the coaches want to show progress.
Oh,
so
yeah.
equate this one thing is like, I'm clearly good coach. Look at how many inches on vertical I fucking packed onto this lift and whatnot.
Yeah.
Meantime, the fucking shot is trash. The fucking their steals
Yeah.
are trash. They can't make a board for the fucking lives in basketball. You see this shit taking place. And so I think you're right. People getting lost in the forest with the fucking trees. they focus on one metric over here, but it comes down to essentially just being. And when it comes down to Steve DeNovi, these are the guys doing the whole RP/percentage thing, whatnot.
It's the same thing.
It's
I get so triggered.
It's salesmanship.
I've been doing that,
sales.
son.
It's all sales, and I fucking hate it, and I refuse to fucking prescribe to the fucking method and whatnot. And I see people falling for left, right, and center. All the new lifters are getting into this. All the people basically who fucking think they know shit and whatnot.
Yeah.
They get into that. They fucking fall into that trap.
Well, it's
And
no
up to
different
them.
than the anti-RPE people either, though.
Yes, bro. Oh,
It's
my
the
God. Don't
same
even get me-
thing.
Don't even get me into the RP people, who are, I'm going to say, even arguably worse than the RP percentage inventors.
Oh my god, yeah.
I think anybody who takes up like a hard position on any extreme, like they don't. I'm not sure you really know what you're talking about. Because if you can't see that the overlaps between velocity, RPE, percentage, and you don't understand like how those all fit into a program or a framework, then like you're an idiot. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, and that that even goes to programming styles, right? Like I think Dave Tate said it where he said like at some point if you zoom out enough, everything looks linear, and that's fundamentally.
I mean,
true.
if you're getting stronger over time, then
the
yeah, it kind of
workload-
should.
The workloads over time are eventually going to get to the point where if I zoom out enough, maybe not on a month, maybe not on a year, maybe on a 10-year look, it's going to be a linear increase. And like,
Well, yeah, like my average volume load right now is much larger than when I first started lifting.
Correct.
Obviously,
Correct.
right? If I squat 2 times a week and you look at the metric, if I had that data, it would start down here and it would be up here by now. You know what I mean? Like it should go up over time, and if you zoom out far enough, it should look linear. But people need to understand that like when you zoom back in, things don't.
No, for
It
sure.
doesn't exactly look like that week to week,
Correct.
month to month,
And
block.
no, sure,
You
I
know,
think people that need to have a better understanding of the fact that you're not looking at basically packing on pounds every single fucking week from week to week, and so that's not sustainable. That's not how strength progress works.
no.
When people talk about like like linear progression and whatnot, linear progression can mean a whole lot of things. When we talk about like I want to say like just getting acclimated, getting adapted to stuff and whatnot, it happens in many different spheres, in many different realms. It's not just a person basically packing on pounds to the fucking top end strength, which for the most part I want to say like your 1 rep max in training and whatnot. You're like your top set single, so on and so forth. It's not strength building so much so as it is like I want to say demonstrative. It tells you whether or not this program's working. What's actually building is the bullshit, like the quote unquote bullshit that people call it, like the fucking like the back offsets, the fucking accessories, that kind of stuff.
I like to call I like to call those like KPIs, right? Like
key
like
performance
they're-
indicators. Yeah, 100%.
Exactly.
Yes,
Like
that's
those are
exactly
things
what
that,
100%.
and I've done a million posts on these things like tracking trends with E1RM and blah, 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 and singles. And like, yeah, we want to see certain metrics go up too over time. Like this speaks to like the, having metrics in place. Like I think that those are great to have, but you shouldn't be hyper focused
Yeah,
on,
but you're not
because
scared
like,
if they aren't
and
either.
I've even,
Yes.
say that again.
You're not scared if they aren't. Like you can look
Correct,
at it and
right?
be like, okay, like maybe it's not going up right now, but I need to adjust.
And if you know how to look at those numbers, you can extrapolate what's going wrong in the training if you're seeing those downward trends versus upward trends, or if they're staying kind of static over time. Like those are things that you can look at. You could go back in the program and be like, this is probably why, and maybe let's adjust this moving forward, and let's see if we get better outcomes, even if it's metric driven outcomes. Like there's a lot of ways to look at it and sort of decipher like what's going on, but it's helpful to have all these things in place, right?
But ultimately, like it comes back to the same thing that we've kind of reiterated several times. Like these coaches don't know how to coach, right? Like just to be blunt about it. And if you feel that way, you can DM me. I don't care. I'm not paying attention. But anyways, like Mark, you and I talked about this the other day. Was like in-person coaching gives you a different feel for what goes on in the training process than online coaching ever will. And so it's almost like you understand the impacts of the training better and the sort of things that have negative impacts on the training as well than someone who's just, I'm online coaching, right? And to me, that is the fundamental problem that we have within sports performance, powerlifting, any of the strength sports really is there's a glutton of just poor coaches who've never had to work with people face to face and just be able to look at them come in the room. Oh, okay, that is not their normal demeanor. I need to figure that out before I go look at this plan. Because like if you can adopt that mindset, then you don't worry about like, oh, well, my programming style is this and we have to do it this way and I only use RPE over this. Like you know what I mean? Like if you can look at someone and say, all right, one, my job is not that important that it overrides the success of their sport. But two, this person is not going to be anywhere close to meeting what I have planned. What do you tell them? Oh, just come back the next day? Well, I'm already here. You know what I mean? And like if you work at a professional level, you don't have that option. Like I worked at an MLS development academy. They live there. Oh, come back tomorrow. No, I got practice tomorrow. Like I got practice every day. Like this is the time I have to go. You have to figure it out. And again, like I'm not trying to poo-poo people, but like a lot of people don't have that hands-on experience or at least a social experience by which they can derive like the way I'm receiving the communication is not indicative of someone who is where I need them to be in this current moment, either too positively or too negatively. Because if you're in meet prep and you're like, oh, this is a breeze and I feel fantastic, I might get a little stressed. I know I do. When I don't feel just a little bit banged up, I'm like, ooh, I probably needed to push a little bit harder. I don't then go and push harder on weeks where I'm not supposed to, but like, you know, it's a give and take sort of relationship. And again, like that's ultimately what it comes down to is people don't know how to coach, and it's I want to slam my head into a wall when I interact with them.
Coaching, I think people ask me what coaching really is, and fundamentally what it comes down to is problem solving.
Yeah.
And planning. You know, you plan, and then all of a sudden what happens is problems arise, and you fucking work around those problems.
Yep.
You ask questions. You say to this person, what's taking place now? What happened leading up to this lift over here today? How's your sleep last night? How's your diet been? And so on and so forth. What's happening with stress? Oh, you went through a breakup. Oh, you're unemployed, and so on and so forth. Say, okay, let's start to level our expectations a little bit and see what takes place. Look at things from a holistic lens, as opposed to just saying, this is a program, things are gonna fucking work over here. See some of these like coaches out there. I've talked about this in the past. I've had people fucking with master's degrees and PhDs or coach people and whatnot lose clients and have come over to me. And they're married to this one ultimate program that they have. This is how it's going to be. This is the best fucking thing. And if you're not responding to this, it's your issue. Oh, you got 2 hours of sleep. You have to get this done. You will make progress. And you see these people being driven into the ground.
Oh yeah.
You know, you have to ask more questions. You have to basically work with people where they're currently at. You know, and as somebody basically who does remote coaching and like who's inexperienced in the sport, you see it out there and whatnot. You know, they don't do this stuff here because they haven't seen people in person. They haven't seen like a person show up and fucking being exhausted and so on and so forth, and fucking or seen like like the difference between that person showing up to the gym like fucking strung out of fucking stimulants and coming in fucking hungover or fucking like sleep deprived.
Right.
You know, so they that shit is lost on them. They can't do the investigative work and whatnot because they've never seen people, I guess, like operating at that kind of depth. All it is for them is here's a program, let me see videos, and let's keep it pushing.
It's just so fascinating though, like. And two, at the same time, I don't want to blame people, but like again, like I saw a Reddit post on the powerlifting subreddit, and this person was
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I know. But they were like, I haven't received a response from my coach in like 2 weeks. Should I fire them? And I'm like, to have some standards, like you know what I mean? Where it's like, I want to feel for you, but this is a level of stupidity where I'm almost like, yeah, this couldn't have happened to anyone but you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like,
you deserve that. You kind of deserve this a little bit.
Yeah, and it's just like. I don't know. I'm so thankful like I work the job I work because one, it's just rewarding working with kids.
No.
It really is. Like you get to see them just develop. And for me, like I think about all my coaches growing up and like I had coaches who were brilliant, referring to like the sports aspects. But the coaches that I remember most fondly are the ones that like really gave me a sense of self-belief. And so like a big thing I try to do with my athletes is like, that like I don't care about numbers, and I think that also bleeds into how I program and everything. It's like because I'm more concerned with your well-being and how you develop as a young adult, because we got plenty of poopy people out in the world that just are terrible to other people. I would like to influence you to be better than that, because I think that's the starting point from my coaching, from where I was like, okay, like this is what it means to coach. I don't like the process of figuring out what works is not that hard. Because I'm not married to something, because it's like, what's good for you in the immediate moment? Mm-hmm. And that was the funny thing when I was working in Iowa was like, I got labeled the meathead powerlifting grad assistant, but then you would look at my programming and it was distinctly different depending on the sport. But then the other grad assistants who like to joke about that had basically the same thing with minor accessory lists filtered out, Like, oh, we got agility ladder for the throwers. What? For what?
Yeah, I mean, you have to.
Boys don't want to do that.
Yeah. I mean, you have to individualize the programming, even when it comes to powerlifting, right? You have to understand what people, even not even just like, oh, what they need from like I assess their strengths and weaknesses and they need this accessory and blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
This is your sticking point.
Yeah, but just like outside of the training, you know what I mean? Like, what does their schedule look like? What is their day-to-day stress, life demands, work demands? Do they go to school? All of those things, right? Like, those are going to influence how they come in and execute the program. And I think those things are a lot more important because it's like you can only do what you could tolerate, what your capacity, what you have capacity for within a certain time frame, right? And it's like, the program, the variables need to be organized around those things, not just, based on some silly assessment that you did. You watch their squat, bench, and deadlift, their hips rise on the deadlift, and you need to give them, whatever exercise. It's like, okay, yeah, sure. Like, yes, that too, but also like, how are you organizing the training and like, does it work for them? You know what I mean? Because if you look at like all of my programs are vastly different, Yeah. And like, sure, maybe sometimes I'll try similar structures and things with the same multiple people, right? And it still works well, but like there's sometimes where I try it with somebody and it's like that didn't work. Okay, I have to completely reorganize this thing. And then it's like even, like Yuli was talking about like communicating with lifters. I actually just got a message from our lifter Pat, right? And he has a 4-week block structure. He's on week 3 in the block. He just hit a 22-pound triple deadlift PR. And then next week he was like supposed to go heavier. So like I hit him up and I'm like, hey, like what do you think about should we just wash the deadlift for next week? Like you don't have to do like it was like 7, like the script was like 3 at 7 to 8 this week, right? And then next week it's like 3 at 8 to 9. And it's like you hit that massive PR.
Yeah,
do we need to get greedy? Yeah, exactly. Do we need to get greedy and go in and be like, no, go take that 8-9, right?
Prove it to yourself.
Prove it to yourself. It's like, and what are you even going to get out of that? Like another maybe 5-pound PR, if anything, and then it's like, then you're fucking toast. It's like, you know what? Let's just a wash week next week, and we'll start the new block.
And then again,
Like,
when it comes down to that, it also comes down to certain lifts that you've noticed for lifter, for example, like they tend to get fried after pushing. There's some lifts, for example, like I like work with Rob, for example, right? And like I just had this conversation with him the other day, and we're pushing deadlifts, and we get to a certain point, and he wants to do more. I'm like, hold on, let's pull back over here. I seen what happened last time we maxed out with it. It took us a couple months to get back to baseline. Squats, on the other hand, though, we can push. He's got that build for squats. He recovers from it. He hit a PR this week. He can push it the next week.
and that's the individualized piece to it, right? And that's what coaching is. It's not just like putting together this perfect plan, the perfect percentages that line up with all the RPEs on the RPE table, and it's like.
Well,
yeah, that's cool for maybe like a template program that you're going to sell for $50, but like
it's a nuance. It's the depth of the person you're dealing with.
Yeah.
It's having a rapport with them. And somebody who basically spends their time just being an autistic fucking like Excel cruncher or shit like that is not going to be able to develop that because all they fucking do is the fucking program. And this is the fucking answer because Steve DeNovi told me so.
Well, that's the other blessing from my sport, or from the sports I work with, is like I know that there is no perfect because I don't know exactly what's going on in practice. Right.
Well, I saw Kevin Oak do what he did to get to where he was at. I saw Larry Wheels do what he did to get to where he was at. There is no perfect.
There's.
And then you remember that some people just have the most insane genetics and they can do fucking anything.
At that point, like that's Elliot Sykes again. Like I'll just because I think he's a good kid.
I know, phenomenal performance. I want to say progress. It's insane.
Yeah, he talks a little bit of trash, but he's got a good humility about himself, and just don't get in his way. You know what I mean? Like as a coach, don't get in his way. It's very easy to be like, this is the way you do things. No, just don't let him hurt himself. That's it.
Yeah.
Like that's a guy who's just going to be really good as long as you
no matter what he does. You just got to keep him on the right path. Yeah. Exactly.
Well, and that's the unfair thing. That's the real thing about genetics. It's not like, oh, I'm an unfair, this guy's got better inserts or the unfair responses. It's they get a broader bandwidth by which they can mess things up and still do well.
Yes.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Any kind of stem stone the direction like they have the multiplier.
Oh my god. But also, I just hate that conversation. I tell the kids that all the time. Like my brothers and I don't look anything like our parents outside of physical facial features. My brothers and I all look the same. Like all the men on my dad's side of the family look the same. But my mom is like 5'2" and 110 pounds. And my dad was only ever 5 and 150. All of us, well, okay, like 3 of them are 5'10" or above, but all of us are over 200 pounds. There's no one else in the family who looks like that. But people will say, oh, my genetics, my parents, and it's like, shut up. Like you just don't know. Like I did not know that dormant in my genetic chain there was just like Polish squatting excellence, right? But it was there. It was there. I just had to find it. Oh my God. Dave gets like mad sometimes because he's just like, it's just unfair. Like you just, like my high bar looks like my low bar. You can give me any squat implement and my squat looks exactly the same. And it's almost like the variation bars are more for my sanity and like just taking it easy on the shoulders, because it's like it's gonna like it doesn't look like it gets stressed any differently in that.
That's like my client. That's like my client Derek. He's Vietnamese. He's like 5 feet tall. You guys have seen him, right?
Yeah,
it's like his range. It's like, and he's been lifting since I think 2022, and he squatted 270 kilos already. So. Like
apparently, I'm supposed to be like a delve specialist, according to my grandfather. Like he said.
Is that what he told you?
So, now how he told me is like he was like a fucking legend out in the mountains of Kosovo and shit like that for having lifted a 300 kg railroad tie. And
Get the fuck out of here!
I was chasing after that. I was like, I'm hit 300 kg. I'm hit 300 kg. I hit 300 kg before he died and whatnot.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
I go like, yo, butts. So I hit 300 kg. He goes, because he had like the voice thing. Oh, that's cool. I hit 400 kg. So the railroad tie, apparently, according to him, I don't know whether he was bullshitting me, was 400 kg.
Yeah.
So
That's
that's
so
the new number in
funny.
my mind. That's
Oh
what I need
my
to fucking
goodness,
hit.
that's awesome. Good grandpa. My grandpa just
He
jumped
pa-
off
he
the
passed away a
bridge.
couple
That's
years
it.
back.
When they were kids, the what river is there, like Schuylkill River or something like that in Pennsylvania? They jumped off the dam as kids. I'm like, this just makes sense. Like, it's just like I understand all of my like mental illnesses when I heard that story. I was like, all right, I get it. I get it now.
Okay,
You
that all
don't
makes
get that
sense
version of your
now.
grandparents, right? Like you get the like mostly well-adjusted. They kind of figured it out by their 70s and 80s. Like there's some.
My grandfather's from Sicily,
So-
and he is a hot-headed Italian man.
So
My
no, my
grandfather
grandfather
had,
was
like, had
hot-headed, but you got to think of what he was like in his youth. That's what I mean.
I've heard, dude. My
Right,
mother has
so-
told me the craziest stories.
But
So they
you
grew
would
up in
not
Newark, New
believe it.
Jersey, and this man he was a fucking raging
Yeah,
psychopath.
So for me, like I heard stories about my grandma and my grandfather, and I'm like, me being Pop would never do that. And then I started hearing more stories, and as I've got to be an adult and think about my own behavior, I'm like, oh. All right, yep, that makes sense. Yep, all right, cool. No, man, but
Yeah, no.
I'm starting to get hungry here, boys.
I'm starving. I was
This might
just
have
thinking
to
the
be a
same thing.
two-part. This might have to be a two-parter.
This was phenomenal, Gabe. We definitely need to have you back on again. The flow was fucking phenomenal, legit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to continue this conversation at a later date.
Yeah.
But either way, we have a program to do that kind of shit and whatnot. You got to eat. This was phenomenal. We're gonna have a repeat episode in the future. I want to say, not too distant. I think our next episode, I've been speaking to him recently, and like through the entire build-up and whatnot, is Craig Lemieux.
Okay.
I expect to have him out there next time talking about his old experience with RTS and that kind of stuff. I have a couple of questions I want to ask him. It's not going to be like.
Are you familiar with this whole drama, Gabe?
Yeah, so I heard about it. I forget. I think like someone again. I'm too terminally online. That's really what my mental deficiency is. But nonetheless, I think there was like a.
This is
Reddit-
also like a very kind of
Well, it's out in the
tested
middle
or
of nowhere.
USAPL sort of
But
specific.
I heard about it like
Yeah.
months ago, and I was like, well, that's wild. But then I also was like, why is this other guy a coach for RTS? Listen, I'm just saying, like, I think certain people get affiliated with companies, and you go like, huh?
So the jury's still out, though. The jury is still out for the entire thing, and I've been a part of this. And apparently, Kenny Allen was talking shit about me in the midst of this. But I spoke to Kenny Allen in person at Nationals. I saw who me and Mark spoke to him in person, right?
Mm-hmm.
And look, he gave me decent vibes, that kind of stuff. It didn't seem like too weird what the case happens to be. But this shit that's taking place, the litany stuff that's coming, what Craig Lemieux's talking about, is fucking batshit crazy. But I'm having some other people in my DMs right now saying that might not be the whole picture. I would like to speak to Kenny. I told him
It smells. It doesn't pass the smell test.
So, no,
It's
there's some things here, like because Craig has been talking to me about this ever since it started. When he hit up Mike Toucher initially about this, Mike Toucher's response was to block him on Instagram.
That's wild.
And then
I know that's been living rent free in my head
so
since
there's
I learned
a
it.
whole lot taking place over here. Not like so, to give further context to this entire thing over here. Craig is also has a bit of a reputation where he's from, whatnot. Like he's a little bit of a hothead and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And, you know, some people really dislike him. Steve DeNovi hates his guts. You know, because he called Steve DeNovi out about his whole price fixing scheme, which he called the fucking coaching cartel, and they decided to meme him and that kind of shit. But when you think about it, it actually makes sense. If you, somebody who's one of the people, the foremost coaches in tested powerlifting, are only recommending other coaches who are like, you know, like meeting a certain price range or whatnot,
Hell yeah.
that's a bit of an issue. Is that not
Yeah.
price fixing? Is that not a bit cartelling?
Yeah.
You know, so like, like maybe I guess he could have used different words with that. For all intents and purposes, that is what it is. So he was right to call him out on it, and he went into stories and talked shit about Craig and so on and so forth, and fucking tried to cancel him the way that he tried to cancel Mark as well, you know, on his podcast. You know, just-
Mark, you're
I'm
canceled.
uncancelable. I'm uncancelable.
Yeah, imagine that. You know, listen, you'll always still be stronger than him, so I can't make fun of you too.
I know. Thank God.
it's just, like,
There's not many. There's not many. So
to me, this shit is fucking wild though, because like he'll do that kind of stuff and like, you know, come at good people. You know, like Craig Lemieux's not scamming people. You know, whatchamacallit, Mark is never scam people. In the meantime, he'll have fucking Joe Stanek on his podcast, shit talking other coaches as he knows, and as he is scamming other fucking people who he works with.
Yeah.
and you approached him at nationals, not in like an aggressive way, but like, hey man, can we like chat? Like willing to kind of squash everything, and he like, dude picked up his bag and was like, I don't think so, and walked off. It was
I'm like, what the fuck? Like, you know,
serious. I watched the whole thing. I was like, oh my
Yeah,
God.
but they want to take the high road, right? I'm sure he said that.
Yeah, he would probably frame it that way. Yeah.
He is one of the he holds the biggest grudges out of anybody in the sport. Legit. He is a person who will never forgive. He's a person basically who doesn't want to meet people halfway, whatever the case happens to be. He's one of the most irrational individuals in the sport I want to see. Legitimately.
It sounds like
It's a
he's
testament to the
extremely
fact
insecure.
he is, and I get the whole thing because people are coming at him, whatever the case happens to be, and so on and so forth. But I don't know, just the way he does things is fucking bizarre. Like he used to story stalk me for the longest fucking time when I was coaching Max. He'd be in my stories all the fucking time.
Oh my
would
God.
interact, would ask me questions, what the case is, and like fucking like Max makes it out to the fucking to the Buckdown Showdown meet, and he goes ahead and snubs him on his fucking podcast. Doesn't even fucking mention him, and he won the fucking the meet the year before in his weight class. He's not even considered in fucking running.
Doc, I'm sure I'm going to get called fat and ugly. Like, I don't hear that from the kids I coach all the time now.
But either way, just
That's
that
the least of my worries.
That's it. We could talk shit.
Yeah.
I guess till the cows come home.
Yes.
Fucking
Yes,
great.
yeah.
Had a
Excellent,
blast.
man.
I'm getting stressed out at this point, though.
Gabe,
I'm kidding.
thank you for joining us.
No, thank you for having me on, man. It kept me sane this Sunday. Otherwise, I was going to play video games because I already did all my programming. So,
Now I have to do a bunch of programming now,
I'll
so
probably be up to 3 o'clock in the morning doing my program.
oh my god.
dude's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Kids.
All right, boys. Well,
Yes.
yeah, it was a pleasure,
Pleasure.
and we'll have to do this again for
Can I
sure.
just leave, or how do we do this?
You good?
No, I mean.
Well,
like,
I mean, we could do let everyone know where they could find you if they want to follow you on
okay.
Instagram,
Yeah,
this
I
and
mean, I
that.
don't want people to follow me. I don't know why you've got that impression. Nonetheless, you can follow me on Instagram. It's just Swole House Cookie. I do like to say this. I am the original Swole House Cookie. The first instance of it on the internet is 2014. I made my Snapchat Swole House Cookie in 2013. Promise you, it's the first. I'm
You heard it here.
Man,
You heard it here,
right
folks.
here.
He is a Swole House Cookie trailblazer.
in fact the truth. Man, that was
All right,
excellent,
fellas.
excellent conversation.
Our pleasure having you on, man.
See you guys.
Thank you. I'll see you around, Gabe. Peace. So that said, thank you all for joining us on episode 33 of the Squad Plug. Like, subscribe, comment, share, and feel free to shit talk us in the DMs and the comment sections of our follow-up posts. Peace.